Han Li's Wuxia Adventures. Chapter 632, The First Jade Metal. Outside of the Flood Dragon Cave, everyone was still waiting. Nobody had come out yet, so who would be the first one? They were all so impatient, with their eyes were twinkling. Let's not talk about the first one, let's talk about the first 5 ones. Who will they be? Said someone suddenly. It's not easy to guess, but Di Ling, Duan Wu Dao, and Xue Sha will probably be the 3 first ones. I don't think so at all. I think that Jun Mo Shi will be one of them. He's going to give his best, so he should be one of the first 3, said someone else. However, everybody in the crowd was convinced that the first ones would be some of the 8 most outstanding geniuses. They weren't considering the other cultivators at all. Xue Wuchang was standing on the fighting stage, facing opposite to the exit of the cave. He looked calm and serene. He was just as impatient to see who the first one would be. Di Long was good, Duan Wu Dao was also extremely strong, Jun Mo Shi was enigmatic. Then there were the 5 others. They were all extremely strong. Apart from those 8, there were other extremely strong geniuses. Each time during the great competition of Xueyu, there were some exceptions, some unexpected winners. This time probably wouldn't be an exception. Until the very last battle, nothing was sure. Xue Wuchang knew that there were some variables which always affected the final rankings, astonishing everyone. In fact, Xue Wuchang was delighted to be in charge of the great competition of Xueyu this time. To see such amazingly talented young cultivators was inspiring. Not far from the exit, Lin Feng was inside of the Flood Dragon Cave on a bridge. He was facing the 9th person with his bloodthirsty sword held firmly between his hands. A red, dazzling light was illuminating the atmosphere. I couldn't believe that when you fought against me that you didn't use your full strength, said the 8th person behind, watching Lin Feng. He was excited. Lin Feng's real strength was unfathomable. Pure qi whistled as it penetrated into the bloodthirsty sword. It was becoming more and more dazzling as it was releasing a terrifying blood energy. In that blood qi, there was also some sword energy. Lin Feng slowly walked towards the 9th person with his sword held obliquely. Die! Lin Feng jumped and released some sword intent. A terrifying red light twinkled like thunder and in a flash rain as he arrived in front of the 9th person. The 9th person looked perfectly calm and serene. He raised his hand and released some pure qi which turned into a wall. It then slowly engulfed the blood-red light which quickly disappeared. Lin Feng knew that his only chance to defeat that cultivator of the 9th Xian Qi layer would be with that sword. He jumped again and moved closer to the 9th person, attacking with his sword again. The 9th person just slightly pulled in his stomach and Lin Feng's sword couldn't reach him. But when the bloodthirsty sword passed by, Lin Feng suddenly made it rotate and move back. It was a perfect change of trajectory, a weak opponent would have never been able to dodge it. Some wind blew and the 9th person moved backwards. 3rd sword. Lin Feng moved like the wind and his red sword twinkled again. Destroy, said the 9th person who was angry. He was pushed back because of Lin Feng's trick, obviously he wasn't happy. He released some terrifying pure qi and destroyed that sword light. He didn't want to move backwards again. A terrifying strength then oppressed Lin Feng's body, leaving him dazed. Die, shouted Lin Feng furiously. His sword streaked through the atmosphere horizontally, the entire atmosphere was filled with the red light of his sword. In the air appeared a word, blood. That was the 7th sword attack. Lin Feng was moving his sword at full speed, just like lightning. All his sword attacks were monstrously powerful. What nice sword play, the 8th person was astonished. Lin Feng's sword attacks were perfect, he showed no flaw with any movement. Each of his sword attacks were extremely dangerous. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be enough to defeat the 9th person. 11th sword. Die, shouted Lin Feng furiously. The gigantic word, blood, turned into a blood cage. It was filled with an infinite quantity of sword energy as it moved towards the ninth person. The ninth person immediately moved backwards with his pure chi whistling in the air. On his clothes appeared the word blood as well. Lin Feng had just attacked him for seventh time and all of them had reached him. Get lost. The ninth person released a monstrous quantity of pure chi which launched towards Lin Feng. Some rumbling sound spread in the air as his pure chi attacked the blood word. The pure chi kept being destroyed by the blood energy. However, the pure chi finally managed to make the blood word disappear in the end. Ha! The ninth person raised his head and saw Lin Feng in the air. His bloodthirsty sword was diffusing an extremely bright red light. Lacerate. Lin Feng seemed like he was in fusion with his bloodthirsty sword. That was Lin Feng's 12th attack. With his bloodthirsty sword he had a special attack which consisted of 13 strikes. Sirrr. The sword seemed like it could annihilate anything. It passed through the ninth person's pure chi. Sword lights surrounded him as Lin Feng's sword started falling down, on top of that person's head. How terrifying. The eighth person's heart was pounding, he was speechless. A group of people were arriving. There was an extremely beautiful woman in the group, she was stunning. Apart from her, there was another man closely following her. They're coming, the eighth person wasn't ready. The seventh person couldn't stop them and was immediately destroyed. The illusions were appearing and getting destroyed immediately each time. Boom! The eighth person suddenly couldn't see anything anymore, only blackness. It was as if he had turned blind. Then several silhouettes passed him. Get lost, shouted the ninth person furiously. He used all his strength to project Lin Feng backwards. But while Lin Feng was being projected backwards, he abruptly stopped. He had crashed against someone behind him. They surprisingly had a soft chest. Lin Feng turned his head around and saw Tang Yuyu. Tang Yuyu had arrived second and just in time. Her beautiful eyes twinkled, she looked surprised. But then she said, "Let's go, quickly." Then her body shook and a group of shadows appeared and attacked the ninth person. It didn't take long for him to be buried under those silhouettes. I forgot that she had the 1,000 shadows technique, thought Lin Feng. It wasn't surprising that she was the second one, with her 1,000 clones she was obviously faster. Where are you going? There was something even more terrifying than the ninth person at that moment. Lin Feng turned his head and saw Duan Wudao and Di Ling Tang Yuyu was trying to make them lose time. The ninth person was constricted by the silhouettes. Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu rushed forwards and ran towards the exit. They were using all their strength for this final dash. Boom boom. Tang Yuyu's clones disappeared and some terrifying chi emerged in the air. Lin Feng could sense that chi. It came from Duan Wudao and Di Ling. Another 100 meters, shouted Tang Yuyu. They still had to run for 100 meters, were they going to fail at the very last minute? 1,000 clones, shouted Tang Yuyu furiously. Blood splashed out of her mouth as she increased her speed. Her clones were moving backwards to obstruct the way. Boom! Her 1,000 clones were destroyed in a flash, but that short time had been enough for Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu to reach the exit. In front of them there was a jade medal labeled from 1 to 68. Take the first one, shouted Tang Yuyu. Lin Feng didn't have time to hesitate. He immediately grabbed the very first jade medal and left the Flood Dragon Cave. Chapter 633, Drinking alcohol on stage. The crowd outside the Flood Dragon Cave was still waiting for someone to appear. And finally, a silhouette appeared. He jumped and immediately landed on the fighting stage outside the cave. Who? People were staring at the silhouette. Who was the first one? What they saw was a sick-looking person who was rather worn out at the moment. Ha! People were astonished. They had never thought that the first person wouldn't be one of the 8. It wasn't Di Ling, it wasn't Duan Wudao, it wasn't Jun Mo Shi. And it wasn't Xue Sha either. They actually weren't any of the 8 most outstanding disciples. Surprisingly, it was Lin Feng, a cultivator of the 5th Xian Qi layer. How's that possible? How could he be the first one? The crowd was astonished. That was way too strange. Xue Wuchang was astonished too. Even if Lin Feng had managed to pass all the tests, at best he should have finished 11th or maybe even 31st. But in the end, he had come out first. It meant that he had arrived first on the bridge. The first to come out was usually the one with the first jade medal, but Lin Feng should have the 11th or even the 31st jade medal. It was impossible for him to have the first jade medal. Phew, the crowd saw another silhouette appear and they were astonished again. People were constantly surprised. That competition was insane. The second person wasn't one of the people they had expected to see either. It was a beautiful girl, however, she was much stronger than Lin Feng. Even though they were surprised, they were still less surprised than when they saw Lin Feng come out. "Are you alright?" asked Lin Feng to Tang Yuyu. He didn't pay attention to anyone else. At that moment, he only cared about Tang Yuyu, who was looking pale with blood flowing out of her mouth. She had used the 1,000 clones too much and was suffering the kickback. "I'm alright, it was worth it anyways," said Tang Yuyu while smiling. She raised the second jade medal. Lin Feng had arrived first and Tang Yuyu had arrived second. Those two would be able to select their opponents. "You made great efforts," said Lin Feng to Tang Yuyu, his heart felt warm. If Tang Yuyu hadn't been there he wouldn't have been able to pass through the 9th person's barrage. But Tang Yuyu had been able to block him. And even worse, Lin Feng wouldn't have been able to compete with Duan Wu Dao or Di Ling in the passageway. He wouldn't have finished at all without her. After all that, Tang Yuyu still gave him the first medal. Even though the first and the second jade medals were the same in terms of advantages, the meaning was different. Boom boom. Some terrifying qi spread in the air and the crowd looked at the exit again. This time, finally, some people they had expected came out, Di Ling and Duan Wu Dao. Di Ling and Duan Wu Dao looked furious. They glanced at Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu coldly. They had stolen the first and second jade medals. But immediately after, they relaxed again. They both walked towards the edge of the area and sat down cross-legged, as if the outside world had nothing to do with them. In the end, they had also won. Even if Tang Yuyu and Lin Feng had arrived first and second, strength was the most important thing now. They weren't going to drive themselves crazy for such a futile prize. Nobody could defeat them and nobody dared to try. Xue Wuchang was extremely curious. He looked at Lin Feng and asked, "Is your jade medal the 21st or the 31st? Lin Feng was stupefied, he looked surprised. 21st. 31st. Even without Tang Yuyu, he had managed to defeat 8 people and could have finished 11th. Of course, Xue Wuchang didn't know about that. So the fact that he was asking was normal. When the crowd heard him, they were confused. Was there a rule that they couldn't understand? You probably abandoned after the 6th or 7th person, right? Or did you get the 11th jade medal? Asked Xue Wuchang again, when he saw that Lin Feng wasn't saying anything. Abandoned after the 6th or 7th person. The crowd was astonished again. Lin Feng had come out first but he wasn't necessarily the first one. How come? Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu glanced at each other and laughed. Tang Yuyu looked amused. They looked like they were close friends. Lin Feng looked at Xue Wuchang, raised his hand, and slowly opened his hand in which appeared a jade medal. On that shiny jade medal, there was one number. 1. First. Xue Wuchang was absolutely astonished. He was staring at Lin Feng's jade medal. Lin Feng hadn't arrived 21st or 31st. Not even 11th. Lin Feng had taken the first medal. The crowd felt normal again. Indeed, he was the first one to come out and had taken the first medal. "I knew it," said Xiaoye in the crowd while giggling. Pajun and Han Man clenched their fists. He was the first one. Lin Feng was astonishing. Even though it was only the second round, Lin Feng could really be proud of himself. Interesting, thought Yuqing Shan while looking at that strange and mysterious young man who had said he was from Shuiyu. Surprisingly, he had finished first. Everybody remained surprised. I wonder where Yu Tianming is and which medal he will get, thought Yuqing Shan at that moment. Besides, Yu Lu Shui and the people from Tianfeng were upset, they were furious. That Lin Feng was too lucky, after the competition they would strip him of his luck. Your name is Lin Feng, right? Asked Shui Wuchang. Lin Feng nodded. He was surprised that the old man knew his name. Lin Feng, that jade key is extremely useful. You have to onto it dearly, said Shui Wuchang. Lin Feng realized something, that jade metal had incredible advantages. Could it be used for anything else? Shui Wuchang was, on top of that, talking about a jade key now. But before the second round, he had talked about jade metals and not jade keys. A key. Those were keys. Actually, they did have the shape of keys. I will, said Lin Feng nodding. Shui Wuchang didn't add anything else. Lin Feng glanced at Tang Yu and they both moved aside. Will your injury affect your fighting abilities? Asked Lin Feng to Tang Yu. She looked calm and serene. From outside, one couldn't see that she was severely injured. I'm a member of the Tang clan, do you remember? Said Tang Yu smiling resplendently. Lin Feng was surprised and smiled. Indeed, he had forgotten, Tang Yu was a lady from an incredible clan. A few bottles of alcohol suddenly appeared. Do you like drinking hot unit? Asked Lin Feng, with a devilish smile. He then opened and chugged some hot unit. Very quickly his pure qi started flowing at full speed in his body. He was moaning with pleasure. The hot unit was flowing in his body and increasing his body temperature. He felt great as his face turned red. How comfortable and pleasant, said Lin Feng, breathing heavily. His qi felt like it was burning. Is it that good? Said Tang Yu in a low voice. She opened one too and immediately drank a bottle. Her face turned red as well. Cough cough. Tang Yu coughed while staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was speechless, he hadn't forced her to drink. Hot unit was good for him but it didn't seem as good for Tang Yu. If it had been good for her, the Tang clan would have made her drink it before. Chapter 634, The 11 Best. Hot unit is for men, said Lin Feng when he saw that Tang Yu's face was red. He found her very beautiful at this moment and his heart started beating faster. He was starting to have some feelings for her. Maybe, replied Tang Yu, lowering her head. The crowd looked at them both speechless. They looked really relaxed. Some of the most important and decisive battles of the great competition of Shuiyu were about to start and they were just sitting together and drinking alcohol. However, Lin Feng and Tang Yu had finished first and second. They had much less pressure now that they could choose their opponents instead of being targeted. That way, with her strength, Tang Yu might finish amongst the 10 best ones. However, Lin Feng's cultivation level was too low. He had only broken through to the 5th Xian Qi layer. Weak cultivators wouldn't be able to finish high up in the rankings against cultivators of the 8th and 9th layers. Lin Feng had the possibility to choose his opponent but they were going to be stronger and stronger during the competition. Eventually being able to choose his opponent would be useless. At that point no matter who he chose he would lose to. Of course, if people had seen Lin Feng in the evil area and then on the bridge in the Flood Dragon Cave, then they wouldn't have thought the same way about him. Even though Lin Feng had been lucky in the Flood Dragon Cave, would someone so weak have been able to arrive first on the bridge? Besides, he had also managed to defeat the first 8 cultivators on the bridge and move on to the 9th person. Although Tang Yu had helped him at the very end, the rest of the challenges were passed by himself and only himself. You are drinking alcohol and not inviting me, said a voice in the distance. Lin Feng, who was drinking a cup, raised his head and saw Jun Mo Shi slowly walking towards them. Jun Mo Shi had come out fifth and had obtained the fifth jade key. He was very surprised to see that Lin Feng and Tang Yu had managed to finish in the top 5. Amongst the 5 best, there were Lin Feng, Tang Yu, Duan Wudao and Jun Mo Shi himself. He was very happy to see that Dragon Mountain was dazzling this time. Just invite yourself, Lin Feng said while laughing. Jun Mo Shi sat down with them, grabbed a flask of hot unit and started drinking. Boom! A terrifying qi emerged in the air. It was Xue Sha. Xue Sha was the 6th one, but he was releasing some terrifying qi and was glaring at Jun Mo Shi. Ha! The crowd was confused when they saw Xue Sha stare at Jun Mo Shi that way. It didn't seem like he was joking, it seemed like something had just happened. It seems like Xue Sha is angry at Jun Mo Shi, thought the crowd. Jun Mo Shi looked unperturbed and serene. He didn't look surprised either when Xue Sha came out looking furious and ice-cold. His hair looked extremely messy and his pale face particularly cold. It seemed like Jun Mo Shi made him angry. But the crowd had a strange feeling. Jun Mo Shi wasn't weak and gave people an enigmatic feeling. He didn't look arrogant or conceited. He was always free and unrestrained, walking around as if he had been having a leisure walk. What did you do to him? Asked Lin Feng looking amused. He was very curious. I attacked him and Umo by surprise, said Jun Mo Shi while laughing. As expected, Umo then came out too and he looked furious. He also glared down Jun Mo Shi. He had obtained the 7th jade key. When Lin Feng heard Jun Mo Shi, he was speechless. The crowd was also astonished. He had attacked them by surprise, that guy, Jun Mo Shi was openly admitting such a thing. The crowd was in disbelief. Jun Mo Shi was really a strange person. You did what I wish I could do, let's toast to your good health, said Lin Feng while laughing wholeheartedly. Xue Sha and Umo were astonished as they watched Lin Feng. What was going on? Lin Feng had come out before them. He got one of the last jade medals though, right? Asked Xue Sha while looking at Xue Wuchang. He got the very first one, replied Xue Wuchang. Xue Sha's face suddenly drastically changed. Lin Feng had obtained the very first jade medal. Xue Sha and Umo were astonished. He would be able to choose his opponents, which meant that Lin Feng wasn't going to fight against them. They wouldn't be able to kill him at that stage of the competition. If not now, we will get him later. Both Xue Sha and Umo didn't understand how Lin Feng had obtained the first jade key. I hope you won't run into me later on, said Xue Sha again, coldly. He then moved aside and sat down. Umo did the same. It's so boring to wait, we're lucky to have some drinks, said Jun Mo Shi smiling. Lin Feng and Jun Mo Shi seemed to be even closer than before. Perhaps it had to do with the results of the race. In Dragon Mountain, Jun Mo Shi was the most outstanding young man of the country. He didn't stay with the masses, but now he was always with Tang Yu and Lin Feng, and they even seemed to be very good friends. It's true that he is more open to other people than most, but he didn't need to think meticulously about his behavior when he could do as he wished. Unfortunately, we don't have enough drinks, whispered Lin Feng as if he had been talking to himself. Tang Yu turned her head and glanced at Lin Feng. She then threw her ring at him and said, there are all sorts of liquors inside. Just help yourself. Hee hee. Lin Feng scratched his head and smiled, looking embarrassed. That alcohol was expensive, he was feeling a bit embarrassed. Jun Mo Shi glanced at Lin Feng, he found him funny. In a flash, many bottles appeared making people drool. That alcohol smelt invigorating. Lin Feng, try and guess who the 8th one will be, said Jun Mo Shi at that moment, drinking more alcohol. I guess Qi Qing Ling Xiao. Why? Just a feeling, it won't necessarily be him though. I'm not really sure, said Lin Feng and then drank another sip. Maybe, said Jun Mo Shi before adding, it doesn't depend on strength anyways. Everyone has their own strengths. For example, Qi Qing Ling Xiao is an expert at using swords. Even though I came out before him, he might still be stronger than me and could defeat me. You came out after Di Ling, but maybe he's not stronger than you either, said Lin Feng, which surprised Jun Mo Shi, and then they laughed together. At that moment, an extremely sharp qi emerged in the air. The crowd saw two silhouettes come out of the flood dragon cave. Just like Lin Feng had guessed, one of them was Qi Qing Ling Xiao and the other one was Lu Yu Qin Yu Xiao Xiao. Are they lovers? Asked Lin Feng. It is said that Qi Qing Jian Ling Xiao is interested in Yu Xiao Xiao, but that Yu Xiao Xiao is ice-cold and expressionless. Of course, I don't know the precise details, replied Jun Mo Shi. Oh. Lin Feng nodded. Qi Qing Jian Ling Xiao had obtained the 8th jade key and Yu Xiao Xiao the 9th one. Very quickly, the top 10 appeared. Ku Yaotong the dead tree was the 10th one out. The 8 most outstanding geniuses of Xueyu had all come out, but they were not first or second. The first and the second had been really unexpected, Lin Feng and Tang Yu. The next one will be from Dragon Mountain, said Jun Mo Shi confidently. Lin Feng was surprised. He then watched the entrance to check if Jun Mo Shi's guess was right. After a short time a person with a magnificent smile appeared, it was Qing Meng Xian. She looked beautiful as she could make men's hearts shake. Chapter 635, the end of the second round. Lin Feng was surprised. Jun Mo Shi had guessed right for the 11th person, it was Qing Meng Xing. How could you be so sure? Asked Lin Feng. Because Qing Meng Xian is like me, she knows the 1,000 dream shadows. So with her strength I was convinced she would come out now, said Tang Yu, not giving time for Jun Mo Shi to reply. The 1,000 dream shadows, Lin Feng was surprised. Indeed, in Celestial River he had already seen a woman use it that used to stay with Lan Jiao. That attack not only belonged to the Tang clan but the Cosmic Pavilion as well. Are the 1,000 shadows technique and the 1,000 dream shadows different? Asked Lin Feng. Generally speaking, asking other people about their skills and techniques was impolite, especially during the great competition of Xueyu. Tang Yu and him might end up as opponents at some point. Lin Feng knew her and was making friends, but he didn't know much about her. However, Lin Feng was still asking that question. That was a bit audacious and rude, however, he didn't seem to realize that his question was impolite. He was the type of person that didn't care about formalities. Of course, not caring about those things meant that he considered her as a good friend, and that he trusted her. The 1,000 dream shadows creates illusions which invade the atmosphere. You don't know which ones are true and which ones are fake. The 1,000 shadows creates clones with real bodies. It uses the power of the soul and belongs to my clan, the Tang clan. You need to have the blood of the Tang clan to be able to use it, explained Tang Yu. She wasn't hiding anything from Lin Feng. However, he felt extremely sad for her. What you mean is that when you use it, if your clones get destroyed, you get injured, whispered Lin Feng. A moment before, Tang Yu had used her clones to open the way on the bridge and she had done Lin Feng could pass. She even used the attack twice. They had all been destroyed, so Tang Yu must be injured. Tang Yu didn't reply. That silence was proving that Lin Feng was right. And then you say you're fine. Your soul got injured, your alcohol won't be enough to cure you, said Lin Feng, blaming her for telling him that she was fine. Jun Mo Shi was looking at them and asked, are you guys dating? Lin Feng was speechless. That guy thought he was funny. Blood soul grass. Lin Feng suddenly remembered something when he looked at Jun Mo Shi. He then shook his hand and some red and shiny grass appeared. That was very beneficial for people's souls. Huh? Jun Mo Shi looked at Lin Feng and was stupefied. The first time he had seen Lin Feng, Jun Mo Shi's servant had fought against him over that grass. Many people looked over at them. Lin Feng had some blood soul grass. That stuff was extremely precious and it was very beneficial for people's souls. A lot of people around Lin Feng looked greedy all of a sudden. "What are you doing?" said Tang Yuyu. She obviously knew what Lin Feng was holding. "It will make you feel better." Said Lin Feng while giving it to her. "I still need some, so I can only give you half of it. Have a try." Tang Yuyu's eyes were twinkling. She remained silent, but then she said, "He's giving it to you, just take it." She stretched her beautiful, slim hand and took the grass. Her beautiful eyes were twinkling. She then put the grass in her mouth, chewed and swallowed it. Immediately her soul felt better. That grass was indeed very useful for people's souls. "You really obtained some," said Qing Meng Xian at that moment while walking towards them. Last time, she was the one who had told Lin Feng to go to the cosmic market to get some. Qing Meng Xian's sentence also proved something else. She was telling Lin Feng that she knew his secret, that he was the real Lin Feng. "Indeed, thank you again," said Lin Feng, smiling again. Tang Yuyu and Qing Meng Xian were really nice. "You surprisingly gave her some of the most important ingredient of the pills you want to concoct. I am jealous," said Qing Meng Xian jokingly. When Tang Yuyu heard her, she looked at Lin Feng and asked, "What pills do you want to concoct?" "Divine water pills. I need to save one for my friend." "Don't worry, I gave you half of the grass, so I still have enough for my pills, no problem," explained Lin Feng while shaking his head. Divine water pills to save someone. Tang Yuyu was stupefied. Lin Feng wanted to concoct some pills to save someone's life and she had eaten one of the main ingredients. She lowered her head and remained silent. Qing Meng Xian sat down with them and asked, "What jade keys did you guys get?" Lin Feng opened his hand and Qing Meng Xian was flabbergasted. "The first jade key. It actually belongs to Tang Yuyu, but she gave it to me. She took the second one instead," said Lin Feng. Qing Meng Xian was even more astonished. Lin Feng had taken the first and Tang Yuyu the second one. She was extremely surprised by the results of the race. "As expected, the 1,000 shadows of the Tang clan is monstrously powerful," whispered Qing Meng Xian, and then she looked at Jun Emoshi. "I got the fifth one," said Jun Emoshi smiling. Qing Meng Xian was more and more surprised. The first, the second, the fifth. Duan Wudao had also finished in the first ones. The results of the race were great. "Don't choose me as your opponent, guys," joked Qing Meng Xian, she looked so beautiful. She didn't want to fight against the 8 most dazzling geniuses, and especially not against Lin Feng or Tang Yuyu. But she was very surprised by the results. The first time she had seen Lin Feng she hadn't thought that he was that strong, but here he is holding the first key. She didn't think that Lin Feng had been lucky though. Luck might have played a certain role during the second round, but that key also required strength. Lin Feng wouldn't have been able to obtain the first key only relying on luck. "Maybe Lin Feng will surprise us even more later on," thought Qing Meng Xian. The great competition of Shuiyu was always full of surprises. This time, Lin Feng might become an unexpected winner. Therefore, she didn't want to fight against him, especially that early. Time was passing slowly as more people finished. The first thing people were wondering when they came out was that they would have to be careful. So many others had come out before them, so they would end up being chosen by strong cultivators. Lin Feng also paid attention to the people who were coming out. Yu Tianming had finished 21st, Nia Yun from Tianfeng had finished 18th, and the 2 other people from Tianfeng had finished 40th and 50th. Lin Feng wouldn't care about those 2. Jian Chen had finished 24th. Lin Feng was astonished by Yun Fei Yang though. After the 50th came out, Yun Fei Yang walked out of the cave slowly. He didn't look ashamed at all as he walked towards them, sat down and drank alcohol. He looked natural, free and unrestrained. Lin Feng was speechless. Finally, after the 64th candidate finished, nobody else came out. The 4 others would never come out, they had died in the Flood Dragon Cave. Since the beginning, 80 people had died already. Some people were sad about that, of course. But their sadness was mixed with excitement. The second round was over. This time, the third round would be different from the 2 previous ones. This time strength mattered most. Chapter 636. Immobile like a mountain, Xue Wuchang looked at the group of geniuses. There were 64 all standing on the fighting stage. Some stood alone while others had joined groups. Surprisingly, the biggest group was the one composed of Lin Feng and his friends. There were 5 people drinking and chatting. The others were different, they looked serious and solemn. They weren't as relaxed as Lin Feng and his friends. "Congratulations on making it so far," said Xue Wuchang. In a flash, everybody's attention was on Xue Wuchang, even those who were usually sluggish and negligent. The last round of the great competition of Xueyu is about to start. Real battles. "Now everybody, let's climb out Flood Dragon Cave," said Xue Wuchang while pointing at the exit. Even though there was only one exit, at the top of it, there was enough space to accommodate 64 people. Silhouettes flickered and they all climbed onto the tail of the Flood Dragon Cave. Then they sat down cross-legged. "Let's go," said Jun Mo Shi to Lin Feng and their other friends. Lin Feng downed a flask of hot unit and sharp lights twinkled in his eyes. The last round of the great competition of Xueyu was about to start. Lin Feng shook his arm and the bottles of alcohol on the floor disappeared. Lin Feng and his friends stood up and jumped onto the Flood Dragon. They were waiting for Xue Wuchang. "Now, show your keys so that everyone can see them," said Xue Wuchang, and everybody obeyed. Xue Wuchang wanted to see the numbers at first glance. Even though those numbers didn't reflect people's strength, it still gave everybody an indication about their potential. "Who's the first one?" Many people who had come out after didn't know who the first one was. They were curious to find out who it was. "Huh," several people frowned. They first looked at Di Ling but it wasn't him. Then they looked at Duan Wu Dao, Jun Mo Shi. They were third, fourth and fifth. "Where are the first and the second?" some of them asked, getting impatient. "There," someone shouted as they found Lin Feng. They were astonished. Everyone looked at the key and then raised their heads to look at the face of the person holding it. Most were astonished but some looked particularly excited though. Lin Feng. Lin Feng was full of vitality but had only broken through to the 5th Xian Qi layer. When the crowd saw that people were looking at Lin Feng mockingly, they also burst into laughter. How could they not be amused? What a lucky guy. Such a piece of trash surprisingly managed to obtain the key, said someone who was laughing mockingly. Lin Feng turned his head and saw one of the 7 envoys. He had the 58th key in his hand. But he was still making fun of Lin Feng because of his cultivation level. He was trying to make himself look better by making fun of the first place to make up for his near last place key. End of the rankings. 6th one from the bottom, said Lin Feng indifferently, and then he didn't pay attention to that person anymore. People from Tianfeng were astonished, especially the 3rd envoy. Lin Feng had just humiliated them. Piece of trash. "If you're brave, choose me then," said the 3rd envoy from Tianfeng coldly. He was the 6th one from the end but he wanted to prove to everyone that he was strong. Lin Feng was the first one, so if he killed Lin Feng he would prove to everyone that he was strong. But Lin Feng ignored him, he despised him. After the crowd got over their surprise that Lin Feng had obtained the first key, they looked for the second one. There was a beautiful woman on his side, Tang Yu. People were astonished again. Surprisingly, the first and second positions weren't held by the 8 most outstanding geniuses of the competition. Alright. Let's start the 3rd round. I would like to remind you that it is here where you will be able to dazzle. Even if you didn't get a good key, you can still finish as a dazzling participant. You will also be able to obtain some treasures from Shengong if you live. If you die, then you won't obtain anything, said Xue Wuchang slowly. Everyone looked even more impatient. Indeed, being able to be on the fighting stage at the great competition of Xueyu was an honor, a glorious moment. But knowing that they would also obtain some kind of treasure from it, Shengong would be good to them. If you finish higher up in the rankings you will obtain even more amazing treasures, added Xue Wuchang, making everybody feel even more determined. Alright, let's start now. Lin Feng, you're first, said Xue Wuchang, nodding at Lin Feng. In a flash, Lin Feng jumped in the middle of the stage. Lin Feng, you obtained the first key, so you are the first one to choose. You can challenge anyone except for those that finished in the top 10. The crowd was focused on Lin Feng. They were impatient to see who he was going to choose. With his strength, he was probably going to choose one of the worst ones. Lin Feng glanced at the crowd. There weren't many people who were afraid of him. Actually, many people hoped to be chosen. They all wanted to defeat the one who had obtained the first key. That would be a prestigious victory. Finally, Lin Feng looked at the third envoy who was also staring him down. The third envoy wasn't weak at all, and he took the initiative to stand up. He was smiling coldly. He was already getting ready to fight. So many people want to fight against me because I have the first key, right? Said Lin Feng, upset. He then looked at the third envoy and said, since you really want to fight, just come over then. The third envoy smiled and jumped forwards. He would face Lin Feng. You piece of shit. You're really a piece of trash. I will show you how a real man fights, said the third envoy coldly. Lin Feng slowly raised his head and looked at Xue Wuchang. Mister, can we start fighting? No need to look at me. You are on the stage, just start, said Xue Wuchang. Lin Feng slightly nodded. The third envoy looked prouder and prouder each second. The third envoy immediately jumped into the air and threw himself at Lin Feng. There was an illusion around his body that looked like an elephant. That third envoy was a member of the Wanxiang sect. He had the 10,000 elephant skill as well and was releasing a monstrous amount of wild energy. He looked furious, staring at Lin Feng in a bestial way. You will not withstand a single attack. The strength of my 10,000 elephants will crush you. First one. Ridiculous, you piece of shit. A terrifying energy flowed out of his mouth. He was moving towards Lin Feng with the appearance of an elephant. Around him were strong winds making Lin Feng's clothes flutter in the wind. Lin Feng looked like a leaf about to move in the wind. Die. Boom. The strength of 10,000 elephants crashed onto Lin Feng's body. A monstrous wind invaded the entire atmosphere. The crowd already had the impression that they could see Lin Feng crushed under that strength. However, a monstrously loud buzzing sound spread in the air suddenly. The third envoy's body abruptly stopped and it collided against Lin Feng. The strong winds were emitting whistling sounds, but Lin Feng was absolutely immobile, like a mountain. He looked calm and serene looking at the elephant-like third envoy. Boom! The crowd was astonished, especially the middle-aged man of the Wanxiang sect who immediately stood up. His heart was pounding while he watched Lin Feng. What was going on? Huh? The third envoy looked stunned too. He slowly raised his head and looked at Lin Feng. His fists landed on Lin Feng's chest, but Lin Feng was still standing there. Looking calm, serene, and peaceful, like a deity. That move made the third envoy's heart palpitate violently. He then started quivering with fear. His 10,000 elephants attack seemed like it had been useless. His heart felt like it was melting at that moment. He was terrified. Chapter 637, One Death and One Coward. How's that possible? Thought the third envoy. He didn't understand what was going on. Lin Feng had only broken through to the 5th Xian Qi layer, but his corporeal body was already so strong. However, the third envoy had broken through to the 6th Xian Qi layer, performed an amazing attack. Even someone of the 7th or 8th Xian Qi layer would find it difficult to resist his 10,000 elephants attack. Some have already died by that attack. But Lin Feng resisted, not moving a single iota. Like a mountain, he was extremely calm and serene. His corporeal body was way too strong. Lin Feng's strength of the Haruka could rotate 6,000 times. With his body of the Haruka now and his indestructible golden body skill. Besides, he had other powerful skills too. Lin Feng's body was monstrously resistant and solid. He didn't know how strong he was himself, but what he knew was that the third envoy was extremely weak. "You are so weak," said Lin Feng calmly while looking at the third envoy. "Weak? If I'm a piece of shit, what are you?" asked Lin Feng to the third envoy, who was speechless. He had thought that with his 10,000 elephant skills, he would manage to crush Lin Feng instantly. What would he do now? Lin Feng was a piece of shit, a piece of trash. What about him then? Lin Feng hadn't moved of a single iota after his strongest attack. Being able to participate at the great competition of Shuiyu is an honor, a privilege. Besides, we have the opportunity to receive some treasures from Shandong which will help us improve our understanding of cultivation and thus our strength, explained Lin Feng slowly, which puzzled the third envoy. Why was Lin Feng telling him that? Unfortunately, you will not have the chance to enjoy that glory and those privileges. You are too weak and now so I will kill you, continued Lin Feng slowly, which made the third envoy's heart start pounding violently. Lin Feng was going to kill him. Lin Feng put his hand on the third envoy's shoulder. He wouldn't be able to escape, that hand was way too powerful. Lin Feng's hand became extremely hot as several flames appeared on it. Quickly the third envoy looked terrified as a gigantic fire appeared all around his body. He started burning alive. "I will burn you to death, that is what someone with an ice-cold heart like yours deserves," said Lin Feng while slowly pulling his hand away from him. The third envoy started shouting blood-curdling shrieks. He was going to burn to death. He wanted to extinguish the fire but it didn't work, that fire seemed like it had become a part of his body. It continued burning without interruption. Then, he turned into ashes and disappeared with the wind. Lin Feng had killed him. The crowd was astonished. Lin Feng had burnt the third envoy to death. That battle had been amazing. Boom! A terrifying energy surrounded Lin Feng's body. He slowly turned around and looked at the crowd, more precisely at the middle-aged man from Tianfeng. "You dared kill him." "Moron," said Lin Feng, then he turned around and ignored him. He went back to his seat. People from Tianfeng wanted to kill him but it wasn't so easy. Previously, the strong cultivators from Tianfeng had almost killed him. After that, Lin Feng had promised himself that those people were the first ones he would kill. Now he was just keeping promises. Now that middle-aged man dared get angry at Lin Feng for having killed the third envoy. What a moron! Moron! The strong cultivator of the Wanxiang sect was astonished, he wanted to slaughter Lin Feng. "All right. Get ready for the second battle," said Shui Wuchang, pointing at Tang Yuyu. Tang Yuyu jumped forwards and without hesitation, she pointed at the second envoy from Tianfeng. He had the 43rd key. "You," said Tang Yuyu, he was astonished and pulled a long face. Tang Yuyu was helping Lin Feng once again. She wanted to kill him. Tang Yuyu wasn't like Lin Feng, even though she had obtained the second jade key, nobody was surprised because she had broken through to the very top of the 7th Xian Qi layer. The second envoy or even Nye Yun would have no chance against her. The middle-aged man of Tianfeng was speechless and furious, the second envoy was going to die. It was that simple. From the 7 envoys, only one would be left. Nye Yun. Tang Yuyu was Lin Feng's friend so she wouldn't let them off. "Are you proud?" said Lin Feng while looking at the middle-aged man. Lin Feng found Tang Yuyu adorable. "If you are scared, you can give up, but you must give up all the treasures, said Shui Wuchang when he saw that the second envoy was terrified. If he fought, he would lose everything and he would be humiliated. But if Tang Yuyu wanted to kill him, he would probably die there. His thoughts were chaotic at that moment, and after a while he decided, I give up. He looked extremely weak and terrified. Being able to participate at the great competition of Shuiyu was an honor. It would have been prestigious to go back to Tianfeng and brag about it, but now he had given up. He wouldn't be able to tell anyone about the battles of the competition. Because he had been too scared and had given up. He wouldn't enjoy the glory of having participated. Coward, piss off then, said Shui Wuchang despisingly. He had managed to make it so far and was now giving up. Such people were cowards. When the second envoy heard Shui Wuchang, he was astonished. The old man despised him. And everybody else did. What a horrible humiliation. He then started walking away and left. Lin Feng looked at the second envoy in a calm and serene way. The second envoy had acted so aggressively and arrogantly before, but now he was giving up so easily. Tang Yuyu moved back next to Lin Feng. During the first battle, one of them had died. And the second battle had never taken place because a coward had given up. People were really surprised. The third battle was extremely fast. Di Ling had crushed his opponent in one punch. All the battles of the 8 most outstanding geniuses of Shuiyu were that way. They could easily crush the weakest ones. Lin Feng paid particular attention to Yu Tianming and Wu Qing, who won though. Those two people had broken through to the very top of the 6th Xian Qi layer and were about to break through to the 7th. They had all become much stronger since they left for Dragon Mountain. Yu Qingshan and Ting Wuyao felt gratified and were smiling resplendently. Once in a while, they were glancing back to the other as if they had been battling too. Yu Qingshan was finally convinced that Yu Tianming was stronger than Wu Qing. His grandson would also surpass him, he would only need a few years. But Ting Wu Qing was also convinced that Wu Qing was as strong as Yu Tianming and would soon become stronger than him. Lin Feng didn't care about those things, he knew that Yu Tianming and Wu Qing would lose against him at some point. The one who had obtained the 28th Jade Key challenged Yun Fei Yang. Lin Feng glanced at him, the one who had the 28th Jade Key had broken through to the 7th Xian Qi layer. Many people had died during the first rounds, but he had survived. In Shuiyu, a cultivator of the 7th Xian Qi layer was already considered strong. However, at the competition, he had only managed to obtain the 28th key and everybody was extremely young here. Yun Fei Yang had broken through to the 6th Xian Qi layer after the first round in the evil area. He had probably obtained some incredible treasure that had helped him. Yun Fei Yang might surprise everyone once again. He took out a flask of alcohol and downed it. Then he walked towards the middle of the fighting stage sluggishly. Chapter 638, Cosmic Force. The opponent was surprised when he saw how sluggish Yun Fei Yang looked. It seemed like Yun Fei Yang was acting different. He wasn't like those who had obtained the last jade keys, they usually looked weak and scared. They lacked self-confidence. However, Yun Fei Yang was different. His eyes were twinkling, he looked calm and unperturbed, almost peaceful. He had ranked 50th this time and didn't look scared at all, he just looked calm and unrestrained. The opponent looked at Yun Fei Yang in a strange way and said, I am stronger than you by 1 cultivation layer and during the second round I finished 28th. You will not have a single chance of touching me if we fight. I suggest you give up. The opponent was trying to discourage him, he didn't want to fight. The great competition of Shuiyu was getting more and more complicated, so not fighting was a good way of reserving strength and energy. Why are you not giving up then? Asked Yun Fei Yang. The other was stupefied, my cultivation level is higher than yours, why would I give up? The cultivation level doesn't necessarily mean everything, said Yun Fei Yang indifferently. Immediately after, he jumped forwards and the atmosphere started shaking. What's going on? The crowd was astonished. Their hearts started palpitating, things looked dangerous. Yun Fei Yang's opponent was astonished too, his heart was shaking at the same pace as Yun Fei Yang's steps. The sensation was becoming more and more intense. The cultivation level is only one aspect of your actual strength, physical strength is also important, said Yun Fei Yang. Then he started running, his feet were bombarding the floor of the fighting stage. Some qi emerged out of his body, it seemed like lights were appearing all around. At the same time, some qi moved towards his opponent. The force of the planet is amazing. When practicing cultivation you can condense force, borrow it from the earth to perform energy attacks. Your kind of force is only a little help, said Yun Fei Yang slowly. He then slowed down too. He was using his feet and force to make the opponent's entire body shake violently. The opponent felt extremely oppressed. Yun Fei Yang's voice was resonating in people's brains and hearts. Everybody's hearts were beating faster and faster. Yun Fei Yang's qi was gaining in intensity, there were massive amounts of forces all around him. Lin Feng was watching Yun Fei Yang, now he looked much stronger than the last time in Dragon Mountain. Yun Fei Yang's qi was becoming terrifying, it seemed like it was becoming a person in itself. Force can be very beneficial, enough so to make the difference, said Yun Fei Yang. He had a very deep understanding of cultivation. Yun Fei Yang was facing an extremely strong cultivator, that opponent didn't feel like fighting anymore. It seemed like his confidence and determination had been crushed. His heart kept pounding, so loudly that he could even hear his own heartbeat mixed in with Yun Fei Yang's voice. Force is an aspect of cultivation, it belongs to the planet. One's own body, strength, etc. can become force, and then it can turn into the abstruse significance, continued Yun Fei Yang. The abstruse significance was the step after level 9 intent. Everybody knew about that. Yun Fei Yang was able to explain intent and the abstruse significance quite well. Xue Wuchang looked surprised, sharp lights were twinkling in his eyes. He was fixated on Yun Fei Yang. What a real genius, thought Xue Wuchang at that moment. Yun Fei Yang was surprising. Yun Fei Yang's words helped everybody understand those concepts better, however, they knew that being able to walk in perfect cadence with those forces was extremely hard. It was terrifying. He was in perfect harmony with cosmic waves. Yun Fei Yang had reached such a deep level of understanding, he was indeed very talented. As expected, there are real geniuses here, thought Xue Wuchang, smiling. Yun Fei Yang had to keep living, people like him were extremely rare. Everyone's opinions were changing. They didn't think that Yun Fei Yang was going to lose anymore, he looked like a winner. Even if his cultivation level was lower than that of his opponent. Of course, force has limits and people's strength too. However, on the great path of cultivation, there might not be limits. Boom! Yun Fei Yang's step made the entire atmosphere and everyone's hearts shake. Even though Yun Fei Yang had only stepped on the floor very lightly. Each time Yun Fei Yang walks, there is force. He tries to understand it better with each step. At that moment, his force was becoming more and more intense. There were even some strong winds surrounding around him. Yun Fei Yang's opponent was already in the middle of those winds. Therefore, strength is good but it doesn't mean everything. Some other factors can influence your cultivation, finished Yun Fei Yang. The cadence of his steps was becoming more and more intense. Boom! Everyone was hypnotized by Yun Fei Yang's steps. Each time he walked, their body would start shaking. This time, Yun Fei Yang didn't stop. The atmosphere was shaking more and more violently, it seemed like it was going to explode. Everywhere, there was only his force. Suddenly, the cultivator of the 7th Xian Qi layer was projected away in the air. Blood was splashing out of his mouth. He then crashed onto the ground with a muffled sound. The crowd was fixedly staring at that cultivator of the 7th Xian Qi layer, he had lost. Yun Fei Yang had broken through to the 6th Xian Qi layer, but with those steps he made his opponent fly away in defeat. He had only needed a few, very simple steps to make everybody's hearts pound, nothing else. Nobody would ever forget Yunfei Yang. That move had been too astonishing. Yunfei Yang looked calm and serene, just like a moment before. Nobody knew what he was thinking, but he didn't look arrogant at all. He didn't try to humiliate his opponent or anything, he just asked, "Do you want to continue the battle?" That person was crawling on the floor, with his blood flowing out of his mouth. He shook his head and said, "No need, you won. That was a very good battle and a great victory for you. I really need to practice more. Thank you for what you taught me. Don't worry. I'm off," said Yunfei Yang, nodding and then moving back to his original place. "What a mysterious and enigmatic guy," said Lin Feng while smiling. He was really astonished. Lin Feng also wanted to understand the concept of force even more. Lin Feng wanted to understand that cadence and harmony between Yunfei Yang's steps and the cosmic waves. Everybody was staring at Yunfei Yang in a different way. That guy was an authentic genius. "Am I mysterious?" said Yunfei Yang while shrugging and smiling. Yunfei Yang had won the battle, even though his ki was one of the last ones. He had proved to everybody that it didn't mean anything. His victory had been dazzling. Chapter 639, Astonishing Choice Against All Expectations. The following battles were extremely equitable because they were in the middle of the rankings. The battles were very interesting to watch. All sorts of people were winning and losing, from the middle of the rankings as well as from the bottom. In the end, 32 battles finished. 64 people had fought, 32 had been eliminated. Those who had been eliminated were extremely disappointed, but they knew that it was because they weren't strong enough. Of course, they were still alive, so there was still some hope. Amongst the 32 people who had been eliminated, 2 had died and 1 had escaped. There was no hope for them anymore. Fighting had taught the losers a lot. They had understood why strong cultivators were strong, what made them strong. They had lost, but Shengong would still honor their presence. That mysterious Shengong would probably grant people with incredible treasures which would help them increase their cultivation level. That's what the losers were hoping for. Of course, thinking that way was also a way of comforting themselves for having lost. After all, they had already been eliminated. Their dream of making it to the last battles had disappeared. Xue Wuchang looked at the geniuses, slightly smiled and said, "Have a rest for 12 hours and get ready for the next series of battles." The second series of battles would be everybody's second. Most people in the crowd closed their eyes or practiced some skills when they heard him. They either practiced cultivation, or were waiting for their pure chi stocks to be filled up again. Other silhouettes flickered and they landed in the middle of the common crowd to talk to people from their clans or sections. They were consulting their relatives to seek advice about who they should challenge for the next battle. Lin Feng and his friend surprisingly sat down and kept drinking. They looked quite relaxed. Lin Feng looked at Yunfei Yang, smiled and said, "Yunfei Yang, tell me, are you not hiding your real cultivation level?" Yunfei Yang seemed like he had some secrets. The first time Lin Feng had met him, he had only broken through to the 4th Xian Qi layer. But then he had very quickly broken through to the 5th Xian Qi layer. However, during the first round in the evil area, he had already broken through to the 6th Xian Qi layer. He was becoming stronger and stronger extremely fast, too fast to be true. Lin Feng was even more intrigued because Yunfei Yang had an extremely high power of understanding and monstrous strength, but he had ranked 50th during the second round. How strange. He only obtained the 50th key. Lin Feng didn't believe that Yunfei Yang had only broken through to the 6th Xian Qi layer. He believed that his cultivation level was even higher than that. "Guess," said Yunfei Yang. "I can't see it, but I have the feeling that you're much stronger," said Lin Feng, looking over to Jun Mo Shi and Tang Yuyu. "I don't know," said Tang Yuyu. Jun Mo Shi's eyes were twinkling. He was looking at Yunfei Yang in a strange way. Yun Fei Yang and Lin Feng were very similar. They looked insignificant, calm, not arrogant, serene. They didn't draw people's attention too much, but in fact, each time they fought they were astonishing. "You are both so evil," joked Jun Mo Shi. It seemed like he agreed with Lin Feng about Yun Fei Yang. However, Jun Mo Shi also had doubts when it came to Lin Feng. He doubted that Lin Feng was showing his full strength. "What does that have to do with me?" teased Lin Feng. "Indeed, it has nothing to do with you. You've only broken through to the 5th Xian Qi layer, but you obtained the first Jade Key. You finished even before those cultivators of the 8th and 9th Xian Qi layer," whispered Jun Mo Shi. Lin Feng smiled from the corner of his mouth. He liked to tease his friends too. Half a day passed very quickly. "All right. It's time to continue," said Shui Wuchang. Everybody suddenly looked solemn and serious. They all moved to the flood dragon statue again. They were psychologically preparing themselves. It was about to start again. From those 32 people, only 16 would be left after this series of battles. Those 16 people would be able to continue. After those 16 people's battles, there would only be 8 left. Then the top 10 would appear, and more particularly the top 8. The most dazzling young people of the great competition of Shuiyu would finally be recognized. Being one of the 8 most dazzling cultivators of the competition would be an extreme glory and honor for them. They would go back to their country, one of the 13 countries of Shuiyu, and would be recognized as incredible cultivators. At the same time, the competition was a great way to become stronger. After competing, their cultivation level would be much higher. It would increase their self-confidence, determination and willpower. Of course, it wasn't over yet, so it was useless to dream about those things. First they had to win their next 2 battles, which wouldn't be that easy at all. Apart from Lin Feng and Yun Fei Yang and another cultivator of the 6th Xian Qi layer, all the others had broken at least through to the 7th Xian Qi layer, at least. Apart from strength and abilities, luck also played a role. For some people, being able to choose their opponents was really a great luck. "Lin Feng, it's your turn," said Shui Wuchang. Lin Feng was, after all, the first of them. Lin Feng slightly nodded and jumped forwards. He was facing 31 extremely strong cultivators. Who was he going to choose this time? Yun Fei Yang was the weakest of all, but he was monstrously strong. On top of that, he was Lin Feng's good friend, so they couldn't choose each other. Apart from Yun Fei Yang, there was only one other person of the 6th Xian Qi layer. Everybody looked at that person. Lin Feng had to choose him if he wanted to win. That cultivator felt tense when he sensed that everybody was looking at him. He had lots of pressure at that moment. "Well, fighting against him would be my best option," thought that person. Apart from Lin Feng, the next ones would all be terrifying. Maybe the best option was to be chosen by Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at him too, his eyes were twinkling. That person then said, "Let's fight." A terrifying battle energy then rose up in the air. However, what astonished him was that Lin Feng wasn't looking at him anymore. Lin Feng wasn't going to choose him. That person of the 6th Xian Qi layer was scared again. If Lin Feng didn't choose him, that person would lose for sure. He felt like he had been eliminated already, completely dispirited. The crowd was also astonished to see that Lin Feng wasn't choosing him. He had broken through to the 6th Xian Qi layer, so he was the best choice. Lin Feng was the first one to choose, so that was also a great opportunity for him, but it seemed like he wasn't going to use it. Lin Feng then slowly turned his head and looked at Nia Yun, then at Wu Qing. Lin Feng looked hesitant. Is Lin Feng scared to fight? Thought the crowd. Lin Feng seemed so irresolute. Some things need to be sorted, thought Lin Feng. Immediately after, he looked at Yu Tianming. Yu Tianming was speechless when he saw that Lin Feng was looking at him. Was he going to choose him? Lin Feng had no reason to choose him though. "Come here," said Lin Feng indifferently. Yu Tianming was astonished. Lin Feng was really looking at him and was really choosing him. He didn't understand why though. He had broken through to the 7th Xian Qi layer and there were others that were much weaker than him. He had never had a conflict with him, why was he choosing him? Yu Tianming wasn't the only one who was astonished. Everybody else was, including Yu Qingshan. Why was that Lin Feng challenging Yu Tianming? Chapter 640, Insect. Yu Tianming didn't understand, Yu Qingshan and the crowd were puzzled. But since Lin Feng had chosen him, Yu Tianming had no choice. Yu Tianming then jumped forwards and landed in the middle of the fighting stage. Yu Tianming was convinced that he was going to win the battle. He would then be part of the 16 best and would obtain some incredible treasures from Shandong. He would go back to Xueyu as a glorious hero. He had no reason to forfeit, he could easily defeat Lin Feng. The two silhouettes were facing each other. Yu Tianming released some monstrous swift and fierce qi. He still didn't understand Lin Feng's choice though. During the last battle, with his strength of the 5th Xian Qi layer, Lin Feng had remained immobile like a mountain under the 10,000 elephants attack of the Wanxiang sect. His body was extremely solid, but Yu Tianming was going to be very careful for precisely that reason. But Yu Tianming still remained confident. Without self-confidence, how would he win? Besides, Lin Feng's cultivation level was also quite low, there was no reason for Yu Tianming not to win. I'm telling you, choosing me was your biggest mistake during the great competition of Xueyu, said Yu Tianming. He continued with an ice-cold voice, you will regret that choice, and the price for it will be a heavy. Lin Feng looked at Yu Tianming and said, shaking his head, since it's my choice, I bear the responsibility for it and will not regret anything. I chose you and now that can't be changed, so there is no need to talk nonsense. Let's fight and see whom will regret. Show me your real strength and prove to me that I was wrong. Show me your real strength and prove me that I was wrong. Lin Feng's words were resonating in Yu Tianming's head. He suddenly looked calm and solemn as he released some terrifying energy. Pure qi was whistling in the air and enveloped Lin Feng's body, the pressure was strong. Yu Qingshan's white hair was fluttering in the crowd. He looked proud. Yu Tianming was starting the battle. Considering the opponent, he had to win. Tianming, use him as your stepping stone on the path of cultivation, you will reach the clouds, whispered Yu Qingshan. He will lose, said someone not far from him though, it was Xiaoya. Xiaoya looked convinced and she was smiling confidently. My brother will not lose, it's impossible, said Xiaoya with a resplendent smile on her face. Yu Qingshan was furious, how could she be so convinced? Indeed, our brother cannot lose, said Han Man, clenching his fists. He was also convinced by Lin Feng's abilities. Lin Feng had to win. Let's see, said Yu Qingshan with a smile on his face. But in his heart, he didn't feel calm and serene at all. Yu Tianming had gone through so many hardships, and suffered through many difficulties. Losing now would mean the end of his dazzling cultivation career. Let's fight, shouted Yu Tianming furiously. He then released some monstrous pure qi. He was using all the strength of the 7th Xian Qi layer without controlling himself. He was using all his strength. Boom! His pure qi seemed like it was going to explode. Yu Tianming's hands were emitting whistling sounds and moving towards Lin Feng at full speed. But at that moment, Lin Feng looked calm and serene. He just moved like the wind, looking natural, free and unperturbed. Lin Feng opened his mouth and started chanting some mantra in Sanskrit. It seemed like his mantras were thousands of years old. Magnificent golden Sanskrit letters appeared in the air after each word. There was a golden aura around Lin Feng's body. That golden aura was dazzling. He looked like a Shakyamuni Buddha, pure and holy, illuminating the world with his wisdom. What's that skill? The crowd wondered. Watch Lin Feng. He was finally using a real skill. Lin Feng then abruptly stopped, he looked like a statue. Buzz! Yu Tianming's hands landed on Lin Feng and the sound of a bell spread in the air. Lin Feng, with his indestructible golden body, hadn't moved of a single iota, just like a mountain. That's Lin Feng's authentic strength, the crowd was shivering. His Shakyamuni body was incredible. His body had turned into a real Buddha statue. Yu Tianming had broken through to the 7th Xianqi layer, but just like Lin Feng's previous battle, he hadn't moved a single iota. Yu Tianming was astonished, he had the feeling that his hands had crashed onto an indestructible statue. Yu Qingshan was astonished. Was that Lin Feng? That cultivator of the 5th Xianqi layer had turned into a Buddha statue and had felt nothing from Yu Tianming's attack. Die! Yu Tianming released some more pure qi and continued bombarding Lin Feng's body. The golden light was breaking apart, bit by bit. But would it break? Lin Feng was looking at Yu Tianming unperturbed. He then said, "You will have no opportunity to hurt me. In front of me, you are a tiny little insect, you are a coward, you are absolutely incompetent. You can only look up at me," said Lin Feng calmly. Yu Tianming was astonished, he had very high natural abilities and had put so much effort into his cultivation. He had never stopped becoming stronger because he had always hoped to become one of the 4 best cultivators of Xueyu. He wanted to dazzle. Yu Tianming had managed to become one of the 8 high officials of Xueyu. He was respected and admired by everyone. For the Yu clan, Yu Tianming was a treasure. Now, he was standing on the fighting stage at the great competition of Xueyu. He wanted to go back to Xueyu as a glorious cultivator. He wanted to show to his aunt that apart from her, there was another genius in the Yu clan. But Lin Feng, with his Buddha body, was despising him and calling him an insect. Yu Tianming didn't want to admit it, but his pure qi had reached its limits. He couldn't do anything against Lin Feng, he couldn't injure him. Therefore Yu Tianming realized that even with his best skills, all he would be able to do would be to make Lin Feng's body shake a little bit. Breaking Lin Feng's body would be too difficult. Yu Tianming couldn't break Lin Feng's body, so how would he be able to defeat him? He started to get dispirited. His self-confidence was disappearing. "Tianming, don't give up," shouted Yu Qingshan furiously when he saw that Yu Tianming was starting to look dispirited. Yu Tianming shivered and raised his head. He suddenly looked furious and tough again. Erf! In Yu Tianming's back appeared his celestial fang spirit. There were 6 dragon heads on it, and those heads were looking at Lin Feng in a despising manner. "Die!" shouted Yu Tianming furiously. The 6 heads showed their teeth and moved towards Lin Feng. Golden hands. Lin Feng's golden Sanskrit letters turned into a gigantic hand and moved towards the dragon, bombarding the atmosphere. Roar! The celestial fang spirit roared and was projected backwards. Lin Feng looked at Yu Tianming again. In the same despising way he said, "I told you, you are a tiny little insect in front of me, nothing more. You have no chance to win." The crowd was shaking, Lin Feng was really terrifying. Yu Tianming had broken through to the 7th Xianqi layer but couldn't do anything against him. Lin Feng had obtained the first jade key, was it really only due to luck? Besides, Lin Feng was deliberately playing around with Yu Tianming, trying to crush his self-confidence. Yu Tianming was going crazy, was he really only a little insect? He had managed to make it to the great competition of Xueyu. That was an incredible honor, a glorious thing. But now Lin Feng was going to crush him, his heart, and his self-confidence. Chapter 641, Prove What? Yu Tianming hadn't used his entire strength yet, but he didn't feel like using it anymore. Since the beginning of the battle, Lin Feng had been crushing his mood. All of his attacks were useless. Lin Feng was just staring at him, humiliating him, making fun of him. "Tianming, don't give up. You have to stay proud even if you lose. You are at the great competition of Shuiyu, losing a fight is not a disaster, it's normal, shouted Yuqin Shan. He knew what Lin Feng was doing, he could see everything. For a cultivator, losing one's courage, honor and dignity were the worst things. If a cultivator's heart was destroyed, he wouldn't be able to continue becoming stronger. Why was Lin Feng doing that? Did he hate Yu Tianming? Why was he so cruel to him? Yuqin Shan didn't understand, his thoughts were chaotic. It was the first time that he felt so confused, even though he was quite old. Yu Tianming was the treasure of the Yu clan, Yuqin Shan had faith in him. With all the efforts Yu Tianming had made in the past, he couldn't lose his motivation. Yuqin Shan's voice resonated and detonated in Yu Tianming's brain. He immediately roared violently and his terrifying celestial fang spirit appeared again. Yu Tianming's blood seemed like it was boiling. He couldn't submit himself, he had thrive for victory. The strength of his blood spirit kept flowing at full speed. Yu Tianming was roaring like an animal, his hair was violently fluttering in the wind. He grabbed Lin Feng's body and created fissures in the statue. Yu Tianming was finally managing to break Lin Feng's body. Break! Yu Tianming was surprised and immediately delighted, finally. But Lin Feng said something else at that moment. The only way for you to crack my golden body is to use your full strength. For the first disciple of the Yu clan and second high official of Shuiyu, that's ridiculous. You're a real piece of trash, joked Lin Feng. Yu Tianming couldn't do anything against Lin Feng who was unknown, ridiculous. It's only a fissure. Why are you so happy? Do you think that's enough to defeat me? Do you think you can be proud of yourself now? You're less than trash, said Lin Feng. Finally, Lin Feng attacked and his golden hand crashed onto Yu Tianming's body. It seemed like it was going to crush him, blood splashed and Yu Tianming's body flew away. He couldn't even withstand a single attack. Lin Feng jumped and landed in front of Yu Tianming. He looked down at him and said indifferently, "Do you feel proud?" Boom! Another golden hand appeared, Yu Tianming raised his hand and just heard his bones break, crackling sounds could be heard by the audience. Yu Tianming couldn't stand up, he was left on the ground. Yu Tianming raised his head, his eyes were bloodshot. He was fixated on Lin Feng, he had the impression that he was going to go crazy. And now? Are you still proud to be the second high official of Shuiyu? Said Lin Feng. Yu Tianming looked furious, his hair was extremely messy. That's enough. Why do you hate him so much and have to be that cruel? Shouted Yuqin Shan furiously. Yuqin Shan was glaring at Lin Feng. They didn't know each other and initially Lin Feng even looked warm and gentle. Why was he so cruel at that moment? Why was he humiliating him so much? Lin Feng turned around and looked at Yuqin Shan with a cold smile on his face. Why? Because of you, Yuqin Shan. Me? Yuqin Shan was astonished. I don't understand, how did I offend you? Oh, I see, said Lin Feng smiling, but it wasn't a happy smile, it wasn't pride either. It was a mockery, the situation was ridiculous. When you confronted your grandson, were you sad? What about my mother? What about my father? And what about me? Grandpa. Grandpa. Lin Feng had called him Grandpa, Yuqin Shan's heart pounded violently. Yuqin Shan wasn't the only one. Yu Tianming was also shaken. Lin Feng was calling him Grandpa. The crowd was also astonished, that old man was his grandpa. Lin Feng. Yuqin Shan was astonished, it was really him, it was the real Lin Feng. Unfortunately, his grandson was proudly standing on the fighting stage at the great competition of Shuiyu. He had obtained the first jade key, but his grandfather didn't benefit from that glory. He was just astonished. Words couldn't describe those feelings. It was Lin Feng. The real Lin Feng. Yuqing Shan looked extremely sad. So it was you, it's me, said Lin Feng nodding. Some flames were burning in his eyes. In a flash, his face changed. He didn't look sick anymore, but his eyes looked just as resplendent as before. He was an outstanding young man. Lin Feng looked even younger than the sick Lin Feng, he had just been wearing a mask. At that moment, many silhouettes stood up. The people from Tianfeng, from the Wanshou sect, from the Yu clan, they all stood up. They were staring at him. They were starting to understand the situation a little better. The Yu clan understood why Lin Feng had killed Yu Jian and Yu Qin. The people from Tianfeng also knew why Lin Feng had been killing them one after the other. Lin Feng hadn't died, he was still alive. It's him. Wu Qin couldn't take his eyes away from Lin Feng. Lin Feng had become so strong, Wu Qin was starting to get scared. Besides, Lin Feng would try to exterminate the Wanshou sect if he remained alive. Wu Qin's heart started pounding. He felt terrified. If Lin Feng became stronger, he would kill them all. It's him. The people from Dragon Mountain were astonished too. Lin Feng hadn't died, he had disappeared but reappeared with a new face. Yuqing Shan was looking at the young man, he looked dazzling, clean, handsome. He didn't look furious, he just looked alive. Was everything Yuqing Shan's fault? He had always taken care of Yu Tianming and had hoped that Yu Tianming would become a dragon amongst people. But he had expelled his own daughter from the clan, and her husband and her son. Lin Feng and his father hadn't been able to live or come back to the imperial city. They had had to live in a small town. Lin Feng had come back to Shuiyu and Yuqing Shan had hoped that Yu Tianming would crush Lin Feng. He had even tried to make Yu Tianming steal Lin Feng's girlfriend, Duan Xinyi. He had told Yu Tianming to attack Lin Feng in front of everybody. Only a part of his dream was realized, Yu Tianming and Lin Feng were fighting during the competition. But the problem was the winner wasn't Yu Tianming. The result was astonishing. His grandson, Yu Tianming, had been humiliated and crushed by Lin Feng who only counted on himself. Lin Feng could easily kill Yu Tianming if he wished. For him, Yu Tianming really was a tiny little insect. Ridiculous, sad, tragic. That was only the beginning. Why are you doing that? Asked Yuqing Shan. To prove something to everybody. You said in the past that you hoped that Yu Tianming would defeat me in front of everybody at the competition. Now I have proven that my determination was stronger, I proved you that your grandson is not extraordinary. That your other grandson, who's your daughter's son, can accomplish great things. I want to be a source of pride for my mother, and I want to prove to everyone that she didn't make a mistake when she left the Yu clan, said Lin Feng slowly. His speech had made Yuqing Shan's heart twitch. Chapter 642, One Attack, to prove in front of everyone, that Yuqing Shan was wrong. To prove that my mother, Yu Menghe, was right. Yuqing Shan was speechless. Was Lin Feng wrong? He was right, Lin Feng was entirely right. Everything was Yuqing Shan's fault. He had supported Yu Tianming to put pressure on Lin Feng. He had even encouraged him to attack and offend Lin Feng. Yuqing Shan had done that even though Yu Tianming and Lin Feng should have been raised like brothers. Lin Feng and Yu Tianming were both extremely gifted. They could have been much stronger if they had grown up together. They could have supported each other on the path of cultivation. But in the end, nothing had happened that way because of Yuqing Shan. Yuqing Shan closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He had really made a lot of mistakes. Kill me, said Yu Tianming, he was lying on the ground. He felt desperate and hopeless, Lin Feng had just crushed his entire life. He had always dreamt of defeating Lin Feng and in the end, Lin Feng had stepped on and crushed his integrity. Lin Feng lowered his head and looked at Yu Tianming indifferently. Kill him. We have the same blood. Even though I don't consider you as a brother, I cannot violate that blood relation. I have to respect your parents and my parents, so I will not kill you, said Lin Feng indifferently. Yu Tianming would live on despite the anger. That was also an endless humiliation for Yu Tianming because it meant that Lin Feng controlled his entire life, only because of a blood relation. Lin Feng turned around and looked at Wu Qing. Coward. You won't live much longer. If you don't die this turn, you will be my next opponent and your life will be mine, said Lin Feng indifferently. Wu Qing was scared. Lin Feng was going to kill him. Besides, Lin Feng could really kill him now, he was strong enough. Yu Tianming had broken through to the 7th Xian Qi layer and Lin Feng could easily defeat cultivators of the 7th Xian Qi layer. Even if he had been stronger than Yu Tianming, he still wouldn't have been able to defeat Lin Feng. Wu Qing had always wanted to kill Lin Feng but now Lin Feng had the power and strength to kill him. And you, said Lin Feng, looking at Nie Yun. He wouldn't let any of them off, people from Tianfeng were his enemies. Nie Yun was just as speechless. He was the first envoy of Tianfeng and he was afraid because Lin Feng had glanced at him only once. After threatening those few people, Lin Feng slowly turned around and looked at the crowd. People from Tianfeng, the Yu clan and the Wanshou sect. Lin Feng looked at each and every single one of them. I know that you all want to kill me and that you are all surprised. I changed my face because of you. You have always tried to humiliate me, always insulted and always tried to kill me, but I am still alive and now I am not scared of you anymore. Now I can tell you, I am alive and if I don't die, you will. Said Lin Feng indifferently. Those people were all speechless. Lin Feng hated them deeply and bitterly. They all perfectly knew how Lin Feng felt. They wanted to kill him but he also wanted to kill them. If Lin Feng remained alive, he would definitely win. You will die here during the great competition of Shuiyu anyways, said the middle-aged man from Tianfeng coldly. Of course, if you don't die, I will personally kill you. Do you think that with your ridiculous strength, you will manage to kill me, said Lin Feng indifferently yet mockingly. That person had broken through to the 8th Xian Qi layer, Lin Feng could easily kill people of the 7th Xian Qi layer. Soon, Lin Feng would also be able to easily defeat cultivators of the 8th Xian Qi layer. Besides, Xue Wuchang had previously told Lin Feng that obtaining the first jade key would provide him with incredible benefits. Lin Feng had to cherish that opportunity. After the competition he would never have to be afraid of a cultivator of the 8th Xian Qi layer ever again. That cultivator of the 8th Xian Qi layer was astonished staring at Lin Feng. Indeed, after the competition he wouldn't be able to compete with Lin Feng anymore. Lin Feng was becoming stronger and stronger, and at an incredible speed. You won't have any opportunity. You will die on the fighting stage of the competition, said a cold voice. Lin Feng turned around and saw Xue Sha. He wanted to kill Lin Feng and was releasing an evil qi. Indeed, you will die here, said Yuemo. Those two had surprised everyone. Such strong cultivators wanted to kill Lin Feng. Some people in the crowd laughed when they saw that Yuemo and Xue Sha wanted to kill him. Indeed, Lin Feng was definitely going to die there with them. Xue Sha and Yuemo wanted to kill him, would he die? Lin Feng was definitely going to die. If we ever fight, yes, said Lin Feng mockingly. He had the first jade key, he would be able to choose his opponents the entire time. Humph. The two others groaned coldly while staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng moved back to his original position. He had wasted too much time and Xue Wuchang hadn't made any reproach, Lin Feng couldn't exaggerate either. Tang Yuyu was looking at Lin Feng coming back towards her, she then looked at him and said, I can kill one of them for you, which should I kill? Tang Yuyu was pointing at Nie Yun, the first envoy of Tianfeng, and Wu Qing of the Wanshou sect. Nie Yun and Wu Qing were astonished, they had forgotten that Tang Yuyu was his friend. Don't worry, you can kill one and I will kill the other one, said Jun Mo Shi. Wu Qing and Nie Yun were even more furious. Tang Yuyu and Jun Mo she wanted to kill them. The competition is getting more and more interesting. It will have to end soon, thought the crowd laughing. Chapter 643, The 16 Best. The people from the Wanxian sect who had just sat back down stood up again. The imperial tutor also stood up. Nie Yun was dead. Tang Yuyu had killed Nie Yun in one single and simple attack. How horrible. Last time, Feng Chen and the envoys had died in Shuiyu. This time, all the new 7 envoys had died again. Joining the great competition of Shuiyu was supposed to be an honor, a glory for them, but now they had lost all their fighters. The 7 envoys were all dead. What a humiliation. Everything was because of Lin Feng. Almost all of their most outstanding fighters had died. That night when Lin Feng had almost died, he had killed all of them, cruelly. If they had managed to kill Lin Feng, it would have been worth it, but Lin Feng was still alive. The consequences were terrible for Tian Feng. He must die. They were all furious, they all wanted to kill Lin Feng. Put the corpse away, demanded Shui Wuchang, glancing at the middle-aged man and the imperial tutor. The middle-aged man then moved to Nie Yun, grabbed his body and pulled it to the side. Then Shui Wuchang looked at Di Ling. It was his turn. Di Ling jumped forwards and arrived in the middle of the fighting stage. Di Ling then looked at someone. Nobody was surprised. Come, said Di Ling indifferently. That person raised his head and looked furious. He was insulting Di Ling in his heart. Even though he had broken through to the 7th Xian Qi layer, he couldn't rival with Di Ling. The result of the battle was obvious. As expected, Di Ling defeated him in one punch, crushing all his bones. Di Ling let him off though and didn't kill him. Duan Wudao's battle was the same, one punch and he defeated his opponent. The 5th one was Jun Mo Shi. Of course, when Jun Mo Shi came out, Wu Qing and the people of the Wan Shou sect were terrified. They hadn't forgotten what he told Lin Feng. Tang Yuyu and Jun Mo Shi were going to kill Lin Feng's enemies. Tang Yuyu had already killed Nie Yun, so Jun Mo Shi was going to kill Wu Qing. As expected, Jun Mo Shi looked at Wu Qing, which made his face turn deathly pale. Was he going to try and run away like the second envoy? It would be normal if he decided to run away. He couldn't compete with Jun Mo Shi. He wouldn't even have the opportunity to hit him once. Jun Mo Shi and Tang Yuyu were the same. With one punch they could kill people. But if he gave up, he wouldn't benefit from the treasures of Shandong. Nobody knew that during the first round of the competition, he had already acted like a coward. He hadn't obtained precious treasures in the evil area because he hadn't gone and hunted people. He only tried to survive and stay hidden the whole time. This time, he wouldn't be able to hide away. Ting Wuyao looked as ugly as Wu Qing at that moment. Why? All of this was because of Lin Feng. Jun Mo Shi was going to kill him because of Lin Feng, otherwise he wouldn't have the idea to pick him. Give up, said Ting Wuyao looking like a coward. There was no chance. If Wu Qing fought, he would die. Jun Mo Shi was one of the 8 most outstanding disciples. If he hadn't been one of them, maybe then Ting Wuyao would have allowed Wu Qing to fight. Wu Qing was shaking. He glanced at Lin Feng and said, I forfeit. Then he left and moved into the crowd with the people from the Wan Shou sect. The competition had nothing to do with him anymore, but Wu Qing still hoped to see Lin Feng die during the competition. The 6th person was Shui Sha, he won. The 7th one was Umo, he won. The 8th one was Qi Qing Jian Ling Xiao, he won. The 9th one was Ling Xiao Xiao, she won. The 10th one was Ku Yao Tong the Dead Tree, he won. The 11th one was Qing Meng Xian, she won. The 12th one was someone with a silver sword on his back. He fought against another sword cultivator. And the person he challenged was Jian Chen. Their battle was terrifying, just like Lin Feng had anticipated. Jian Chen understood sword intent. Unfortunately, the challenger also understood sword intent. In terms of sword intent, they were both level 1. Besides, the challenger was extremely strong. He had broken through to the top of the 7th Xian Qi layer. Ultimately Jian Chen was eliminated. How unfortunate. The 13th person was a girl with an ice soul skill. That ice soul skill was monstrously powerful. Everybody had had the impression that they were going to freeze standing during her battle. She had challenged Leng Shui from Dragon Mountain. Leng Shui had lost after a few attacks. The 14th person had a monstrous strength and a body like steel. He challenged someone with a black left hand, Cui Wuming. In the end, Cui Wuming had lost. In terms of strength, the challenger had been stronger. The 15th challenger had won, no exception and no surprises. But the 16th person had had no choice. The only person left to challenge was Yun Fei Yang. Yun Fei Yang was an exception. Usually, such a thing never happened at the great competition of Shuiyu. Yun Fei Yang had finished 50th during the second round but had defeated the 16th cultivator during the second round. Dragon Mountain had 6 people left: Lin Feng, Tang Yuyu, Duan Wu Dao, Jun Mo Shi, Qing Meng Xian and Yun Fei Yang. That was exceptional. The 3 other empires together only had 10 left. One more round and the competition would finish. Many were impatient to see the last battles. The last 16 people were all monstrously strong. The clash of titans would start. Apart from Lin Feng and Yun Fei Yang, all those people had broken at least through to the 7th Xian Qi layer. However, Lin Feng and Yun Fei Yang were extremely strong. Many wished that they wouldn't have to fight against them. Lin Feng had scared everybody when he had defeated Yu Tianming. Yun Fei Yang was also able to easily defeat cultivators of the 7th Xian Qi layer. Now, there were 16 people left. There were no weaklings, only extremely strong young cultivators. Have a rest for 1 hour, said Shui Wuchang. He was giving them 1 hour to retrieve some pure qi. Now the atmosphere was particularly silent. Many people were anxious or afraid to distract the 16 geniuses. Lin Feng took out a small round thing. Then he looked up at Jun Mo Shi and Tang Yu and asked, "Who do you want to fight?" "I don't know." Lin Feng rubbed his hands together. All the people left were extremely strong and had all broken through to at least the very top of the 7th Xian Qi layer. "Same," said Tang Yu. "You have the choice, I don't." "I'm doomed," said Yun Fei Yang smiling. There were only 16 people left. So only the first 8 would be able to choose their opponents. "Same for me," said Qing Meng Xian. Immediately after, she looked at Lin Feng and said, "Choose me, I will let you win." Lin Feng looked at her beautiful face and shook his head resolutely, "No need to try and tempt or seduce me." Qing Meng Xian looked at Lin Feng angrily, then she lied down and put her head on Lin Feng's legs and closed her eyes. Her cleavage was directly in Lin Feng's field of vision, like 2 mountains. His eyes started peeking at the sides. "It seems like I'm doomed," sighed Qing Meng Xian in a cute way. She wouldn't be able to finish in the top 8. Chapter 644, A Blood-Like Sword. Lin Feng sighed again when he heard Qing Meng Xian. It was a good thing that he had obtained the first jade key. Qing Meng Xian had obtained the 11th jade key, so she would end up fighting against the strongest geniuses of the competition. Indeed, the first one to choose was Lin Feng, and the second one was Tang Yu. So the 8 strongest geniuses would probably challenge her and she would probably get eliminated. After 1 hour, the battles were about to start again. Shui Wuchang looked at those 16 geniuses, their pupils were all twinkling. The real battles were about to start for real. Shui Wuchang looked at those 8 people and announced, "The 16 last people won't be eliminated easily, the rules will change. We want a precise ranking list in the end." The crowd wasn't ready, the rules were going to change. Indeed, they needed a precise ranking in the end for the competition to be fair. It seems like things won't be as sad as I thought for myself, said Qin Meng Xian, who was lying on Lin Feng's legs, smiling in a seducing way. Lin Feng was a bit surprised when he said, "You already knew that it was going to end up like this, right?" Qin Meng Xian looked at him and smiled. "Every round is like this. How could the last 16 cultivators get eliminated that easily without any rule? What about the 8 last ones? And 4 last ones? Only morons like you cannot understand such things." Eh? Lin Feng scratched his head. She was making fun of him and he didn't know what to say. But Qin Meng Xian was right. Would people get eliminated endlessly? That didn't sound credible. "All right. You need to understand the rules now," said Xue Wuchang. "First, those who have the best jade keys can take the initiative, just as before. But this time, if you choose someone and lose the battle, you must give it to your opponent and you'll obtain the very last one." Eh? Lin Feng was smiling wryly. He had obtained the first jade key, but if he lost he would end up last. And everybody else would raise up in the rankings. Lin Feng had no choice, he had to win every matchup. After the 8th battle your jade keys will have new numbers, but those numbers won't be your final ranking. I will bring you to another place where you will have wonderful opportunities. If you are talented enough, your cultivation level will increase. As expected, some more opportunities, thought the crowd shakily. They looked full of hope. This time, they would have some great opportunities again. Xue Wuchang would bring them to a place where they could increase their cultivation level. Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling. He would always keep in mind Xue Wuchang's words. He couldn't waste the first jade key because it would mean even more at that moment. Keeping the first jade key would guarantee him the best treasures. The treasures were probably different depending on which key you possessed. The first one was probably the best one. Keeping the first key wouldn't be impossible, but it would be difficult. But now, he had to do it. After coming back from this special place with your treasures, everybody will have to fight again. Then, we will see who the strongest ones really are. I will tell you the new rules then, and afterwards we will know the precise ranking of the 16 winners of the great competition of Shueyu, finished Xue Wuchang. He then looked at everyone again and said, "Do you understand?" The crowd nodded. Xue Wuchang's explanation was easy enough to understand. "All right. Let's continue the fights then. Don't forget to protect your keys." It seemed like Xue Wuchang was looking at Lin Feng specifically when saying this. Lin Feng was serious and solemn now. That battle was going to be decisive for him. If he lost, he would miss a great opportunity and would miss incredible treasures. If he lost, he would obtain the 16th key, the very last one. He couldn't lose. Lin Feng jumped in the middle of the fighting stage and looked at the other fighters. He had to choose one person out of those 15. They were staring back at Lin Feng. They were all hoping that Lin Feng would choose them. They all considered him as the weakest cultivator of the group. Finally, Lin Feng looked at the 15th person. That 15th person had ranked 16th, and during the last series of battles he relied on some simple agility techniques to win. "You," said Lin Feng. That person looked a bit tense but immediately smiled. Fighting against Lin Feng was the best thing that could happen to him. He then jumped forwards like a swallow and landed in front of Lin Feng. "Thank you," he gestured towards Lin Feng. He was thanking Lin Feng for having chosen him. "Are you sure that you want to thank me?" asked Lin Feng indifferently. That person nodded and said, "I saw you fight, even though your golden Buddha body is a strong attack. And even though you can defeat cultivators of the 7th Xian Qi layer, you are extremely slow. I can do whatever I want with you. I can't understand why you chose me." "You think that you will win and thus thanked me, right?" asked Lin Feng. "Indeed. Thank you for choosing me." "I will cripple your cultivation," said that person, leaving Lin Feng speechless. "I choose you so you thank me jokingly. Now you plan to win and cripple my cultivation, eh?" But I'm also saving you from getting humiliated. It means that if anyone else chose you, you'd have absolutely no chance, said Lin Feng. The other nodded and said, you're smart but you did something stupid too. Alright. Since you're so confident, I will give you a chance now. We will see if you can thank me again after the battle, said Lin Feng, slowly raising his hand and grabbing the sword on his back. The crowd was stupefied. Apart from his Buddha attacks, Lin Feng also used swords. A metallic sound spread in the air when Lin Feng unsheathed his sword. That sword was red like blood and particularly dazzling. On that sword there was blood and sword energy. Huh! The crowd was astonished, since when could Lin Feng use a sword? A terrifying sword energy then emerged out of his body and emitted whistling sounds. In a flash, Lin Feng was surrounded by a sword light. So I'm too slow when I use my golden body. Did you wonder if I could use anything else, said Lin Feng indifferently. Immediately after, a terrifying sword energy started rolling out of his sword and into the air. That person was astonished. What a terrifying blood sword. That chi was really frightening. You made me use this sword, said Lin Feng. Then he jumped forwards and threw himself at his enemy. It seemed like his terrifying sword energy was about to lacerate the enemy. That person then started moving incredibly fast. I don't think that your sword is faster than my agility techniques, said the person coldly. Lin Feng then rose up in the air as well. He was surrounded by sword energy and sword intent. Die. The sword intent and blood energy fused together. That person only saw a terrifying light. The enemy wanted to dodge but it seemed impossible. He lowered his head and saw some blood dripping. Your agility technique is fast but I am faster, said Lin Feng. That person's heart pounded violently. Chapter 645, The Holy City, Are you faster than my sword? Asked Lin Feng. The crowd was astonished as they watched the silhouette in the sky, more precisely his abdomen. His abdomen was covered with blood, and then incredibly, some blood arrows started emerging out his abdomen and moving into Lin Feng's sword. Lin Feng's sword was drinking blood. His sword drinks blood, thought the crowd stupefied. Lin Feng's opponent raised his head and asked, Lin Feng. What is your sword? It's a bloodthirsty sword, said Lin Feng indifferently. We are 16, losing here is not dramatic. Originally, I just wanted to fight and stop when one of us had lost. We would have both benefited from amazing advantages and would have both become much stronger. We would have been seen as amazing and dazzling cultivators. Unfortunately, you wanted to cripple my cultivation so you have to die now. And you have only yourself to blame, explained Lin Feng while his sword continued drinking his opponent's blood. Then he stopped at his opponent and moved back to his original position. The moron offended the dragon. And the moron will die, said that person with a sorrowful smile. He could have had a beautiful future but now he was going to die now. He then slowly collapsed, crashing onto the fighting stage. Shui Wuchang raised his finger, and in a flash the body burnt to ashes and disappeared. Shui Wuchang looked absolutely calm and serene. He glanced at Lin Feng. Lin Feng really had incredible natural abilities. He really had benefited from the temples at the beginning. When the crowd saw the corpse burn to ashes, they then glanced at Lin Feng. They were unable to calm down. Lin Feng had understood the golden body. So people couldn't break him. Lin Feng could use one sword to threaten everyone. That infuriating the possessor of the first jade key was dangerous. What astonished those who knew Lin Feng was that he was able to crush cultivators of the 7th Xian Qi layer easily. He had even despised and humiliated Yu Tianming. For someone like Yu Qingshan, the situation seemed unreal. His grandson was dazzling on the fighting stage of the great competition of Shuiyu. But at the same time, he didn't recognize him as his grandson. Like a tiger, Meng He's son is an incredible successor. If she were here, she would probably feel very gratified, thought Yu Qingshan. He looked sad as he closed his eyes. Lin Feng's natural abilities were higher than that of his parents. He's amazing, our brother has become so strong, thought Han Man. Under his bronze mask, there was a magnificent and resplendent smile. He was clenching his fists so hard that blue veins appeared. Lin Feng's strength was astonishing, everyone's hearts were pounding. That young man on the stage was Han Man's great friend, they were like brothers. Chapter 646, Titans Battles. Phew. Tang Yu took a deep breath, that battle hadn't been easy. The next cultivators were all monstrously strong. They had all broken through to the 7th Xian Qi layer or above. Every battle would be monstrous. Tang Yu moved back next to Lin Feng. When Lin Feng saw that her body was still surrounded by a layer of ice, he released some fire qi and heated her up. The ice melted away quickly. "Thank you," said Tang Yu, smiling resplendently. Lin Feng nodded and looked at the stage again. The third battle was Di Ling's. Di Ling had chosen the person who was ranked 14th. It was a cultivator whose body was as solid as steel. However, Di Ling defeated him in one punch. The third battle was Duan Wudao's. He chose the person who ranked 12th and used a sword. Just like Di Ling, Duan Wudao defeated him in one extremely brutal punch. Those two are extremely brutal, thought the crowd after watching Di Ling and Duan Wudao. Everybody had already forgotten that Duan Wudao came from a country under the jurisdiction of Dragon Mountain. They only knew that he was monstrously powerful. Nobody dared belittle him, he could definitely compete with Di Ling. They also heard about Duan Wudao's sealed doors blood spirit, they could seal other people's cultivation. The fifth battle was Jun Mo Shi's. Jun Mo Shi frowned and then smiled wryly when he arrived in the middle of the fighting stage. "I'm the fifth one," Jun Mo Shi looked at his jade key, thought for a few seconds. From Lin Feng to Duan Wudao, they had chosen people who weren't part of the top 10. There were only 2 people left amongst the weakest cultivators. Qin Meng Xian and Yunfei Yang. He felt really embarrassed, he couldn't choose them. Thus, he could only choose someone from the top 10. There were, Xue Sha, Umo, Ling Xiao, Yu Xiao Xiao and the dead tree. Ha! The crowd was astonished. "Come," said Jun Mo Shi. Umo was astonished. He looked to his left, there was Xue Sha. And then he looked to his right, there was Ling Xiao. Immediately after, he looked at Jun Mo Shi again and realized that Jun Mo Shi was really looking at him. He was astonished. Umo's eyes were twinkling though. How interesting, Jun Mo Shi had chosen him. The crowd was stunned as well. Jun Mo Shi was choosing him. Really? Everybody was looking at him, Jun Mo Shi had chosen him. Jun Mo Shi was a genius from Dragon Mountain and was one of the 8 most outstanding young disciples of the competition. During the second round he had obtained the 5th Jade Key. Umo was a genius from Firmament and was also one of the 8 most outstanding geniuses of the competition. During the second round, he had obtained the 7th key. Now Jun Mo Shi was challenging him. Phew! The crowd looked terribly excited, they were shivering. Finally, 2 monstrously strong cultivators were going to fight. His white and gray pupils looked colder and colder. Whistling sounds were increasingly strident. It seemed like it was going to be difficult for Umo to block the vital qi of the earth and sky. Boom boom boom. A terrifying qi suddenly rolled and tossed over in the atmosphere. That qi was terrifying and oppressive, how terrifying. Umo had the feeling he couldn't condense energies or strength anymore. He was just being oppressed violently. "Illumination of the heavenly bodies," said Jun Mo Shi. In the air there was the vital qi of the earth, of the mountains, the rivers, and of the heavenly bodies. The air was filled with purity, holiness and righteousness. The crowd was shivering, everybody became solemn. They were feeling guilt build up in their hearts. That vital chi was filled with righteousness which made sinners feel guilty. Yumo's heart was filled with poison and evilness, so it was difficult not to be affected. His strength was being completely oppressed. He had no determination to fight anymore, he just stared at the pure and holy chi which was becoming even more magnificent in the sky. His facial muscles were twitching. How come? Junmo's strength was really terrifying. 8 trigrams, shouted Umo, his eyes were radiating evil. His chi moved towards the vital chi in the air. Vital chi of righteousness, destroy evil and sinners, sung Junmo. Each of his words were releasing pure vital chi which attacked and collided against the 8 trigrams. They vanished. Umo was unable to release his 8 trigrams spirit properly. Boom! Some spirit chi emerged in the air, the 8 trigrams appeared behind Umo, his eyes were bloodshot. That's enough, shouted Xue Wuchang at that moment. He sounded furious, Umo was astonished. It's the end of the battle. No need to continue, said Xue Wuchang indifferently. With Junmo's vital chi of righteousness, continuing the fight was useless. Xue Wuchang already knew how the battle would end if they continued. Chapter 647, Everybody, give up. There really are too many geniuses, thought Xue Wuchang. Junmo could use pure and unadulterated vital chi of righteousness. How rare and how difficult, especially to make it reach such dimensions. It was extremely hard to learn. In order to learn vital chi of righteousness, one required a pure heart and couldn't commit sins. One's vitality and soul had to be pure, sinners couldn't give birth to vital chi of righteousness. That skill was the reflection of one's personality. Stop now. Umo raised his head and looked at Xue Wuchang. He didn't understand why the battle had to stop. Just a moment before Junmo had just oppressed his body, why would the battle stop? Umo wanted to regain face, he had just been humiliated. You lost, said Xue Wuchang. Umo didn't know what to say, so he pulled a long face. Xue Wuchang was humiliating him in front of everybody. Even though you didn't lose in terms of strength, you lost in your heart. What you need to do is not think about regaining your prestige. But instead, change your state of mind. If you are unable to change your state of mind, then you will miss out on the wonderful opportunities that await you ahead. At that time, you will lose again, said Xue Wuchang slowly to Umo. Umo's face looked hideous. He understood what Xue Wuchang meant, after all, Umo wasn't stupid. Junmo was indeed extremely strong, and that vital chi of righteousness could destroy evil chi. A moment before, Umo had wanted to release his spirit. But Junmo wouldn't have struggled with it, that was indeed his defeat. We will fight again, said Umo coldly to Junmo. He then moved back to his seat. We can play together anytime, said Junmo smiling. He looked free, natural and unrestrained. When he moved, his vital chi of righteousness disappeared and he looked like an ordinary young man again. There was nothing strange about him. Junmo moved back to his seat. In their hearts, everybody felt even more respect for Junmo. Maybe Junmo was one of the 3 best cultivators of the competition, along with Duan Wudao and Di Ling. Lin Feng and Tang Yu were extremely strong and had obtained the first jade keys. But compared with someone like Junmo, they were still very far. At least, in their eyes. Junmo's vital chi of righteousness was monstrously powerful. Umo didn't have a chance to resist it. Umo was one of the 8 most dazzling geniuses of the competition, but he was still inferior to Junmo. Before the battle, everybody had wondered which of them were stronger. And the competition was full of surprises. Junmo, who didn't look as strong to begin with, was actually obscenely strong. Being aggressive and arrogant didn't mean anything to someone like Junmo, who was always calm, serene and gentle. Many had thought that Junmo was one of the weakest of the 8 most outstanding geniuses. Yun Fei Yang wasn't far from him, but the death energy around his body didn't feel pleasant. It seemed like he could die at any moment. Ku Yaoteng then made a step forwards and some withered qi spread through the air. However, Yun Fei Yang smiled devilishly from the corner of his mouth. He looked particularly amused. "I'm sorry, I give up," said Yun Fei Yang abruptly. Everybody was astonished. Yun Fei Yang had asked for a battle and then suddenly gave up. Ku Yaoteng was furious, but he didn't even have time to react, that Yun Fei Yang was already back to his seat. He smiled resplendently and said, "I wanted to see your qi, now that I saw it there is no need to continue." "You're playing with me," said Ku Yaoteng menacingly. "I think that everybody wants the battles to end as soon as possible," replied Yun Fei Yang joyfully. Everybody wanted to see the great presence from Shengong. Yun Fei Yang had given up right out, which meant that the battles had come to an end for now. Chapter 648, Shengong. The crowd was just as surprised when Yun Fei Yang gave up. Perhaps he had really only wanted to see some of Ku Yaoteng's qi. But Yun Fei Yang was right. Everybody was hoping to see what kind of gifts Shengong had for them. Ku Yaoteng groaned coldly and returned to his seat. There were 15 people left, the 15 strongest ones. Xue Wuchang glanced at the 15 cultivators left and said, "All right, come with me now. In 7 days we will come back here to continue." 7 days, the crowd was surprised. They needed 7 days to receive gifts. The 15 geniuses weren't ready for that either. Where were they going? Why did they need 7 days? But in any case they were all happy. They weren't going to complain because they were going to obtain treasures. "Mister, I offended many people in Micheng. I will be with you for 7 days. "But my friends," said Lin Feng in a weak voice. Han Man and Pejun were there too. Maybe Lin Feng's enemies would try to kill them. Lin Feng was scared to leave them for 7 days. "Where are your friends?" asked Xue Wuchang. "There," said Lin Feng, pointing at them. "All right. If anyone dares touch them, Shengong will kill them. And for further precaution, I will send people to protect them," said Xue Wuchang. He then continued, "You don't need to worry about anything. Relax. During these 7 days, you must only pay attention to yourself. I will make sure there will be no problems." "All right. Thank you very much," said Lin Feng while bowing in front of him. Surely, nothing would happen to Han Man and the 2 others. "Anything else?" asked Xue Wuchang to the crowd. Everybody shook their heads, expressionlessly. "All right, then follow me," said Xue Wuchang, turning around and rising up into the air. "In 7 days, wait here," shouted Lin Feng to Han Man and the others. Then he rose up in the air and followed Xue Wuchang, along with the others. Their pure qi was emitting whistling sounds in the atmosphere. They were flying above the clouds in the sky. "Lin Feng, what do you think we will get this time?" asked Jun Emoshi. Lin Feng and the others from Dragon Mountain were flying together in the sky, only Duan Wudao wasn't with them. Duan Wudao hadn't even glanced at anyone else. He had stayed alone from the beginning and to the end. He looked very selfish, as if he had been the master of the sky and was above all the others. "No idea," said Lin Feng, shaking his head. He had no idea what the competition would be like this time. Would it be like the first round? Would luck play a role in this part of the competition? Xue Wuchang had said that the number of their jade key would play a role. Each jade key probably enabled cultivators to access different treasures. Lin Feng would probably obtain the best treasure then. The first round was about getting skills in the temples, so this time wouldn't be about getting skills or techniques. Maybe it's about making us smarter and increasing our power of understanding. "Maybe we will understand cultivation layers even better," said Jun Emoshi. Xue Wuchang had told them that they would first get treasures and then fight again. So what were those treasures? Would they drastically change their cultivation abilities? Would they influence the next battles? Nobody knew anything. Lin Feng and Jun Mo Shi were no exceptions. After 2 days, Xue Wuchang slowed down. In front of them was a mysterious qi. It was an illusion. "We arrived," said Xue Wuchang. He stopped and everybody else stopped with him. They all looked to Xue Wuchang. They had arrived. There was nothing in front of them, only clouds. Were there treasures there? In front of them appeared a gigantic cloud. They were confused. Suddenly, some clouds rolled apart and a magnificent light appeared. Their hearts began to beat faster. In front of them, clouds opened and a path appeared. "What's this?" The crowd was astonished. "How intriguing. That was an illusionary door." A moment before, there had been clouds, but now there was an illusionary door. Inside, there was a hole that looked like another world. "Come," said Xue Wuchang, passing through the door. The crowd followed him and then they sensed that their pure qi was becoming chaotic. How pleasant. The pure qi of the earth and the sky is very thick here, thought Lin Feng, pleasantly surprised. He turned his head and saw that the illusionary door had closed itself. They had really arrived in another world. Under their feet, the pure qi of the earth and the sky was rolling. Lin Feng had the feeling that this place was like a fairy tale, like those he had watched on the TV in his previous life. There were celestial palaces above the clouds. "That place is Shengong," said Xue Wuchang. Everybody was astonished. Shengong was that entire mystical place. Clouds kept rolling over. That place was proof of Shengong's power. On the path of cultivation, there really are no limits, thought Lin Feng, terribly excited. Creating such a world was monstrously difficult. Who could create such a world? What was the cultivation layer of the one who had created it? "Protector Xue," shouted a person in the distance. It was a young man in armor. He then nodded to Xue Wuchang. That young man was about 25 years old and his qi was enigmatic. He was even stronger than Umo. That person was different from the 8 most outstanding geniuses of the competition. His armor, just like his eyes, were twinkling. "Hao Peng, come. These people are for you," said Xue Wuchang to the young man. Hao Peng nodded and said, "In 7 days, I'll bring them back." "All right," said Xue Wuchang, nodding. Immediately after, he looked at the crowd and said, "Go with Hao Peng. He knows where to take you." Everybody looked at Hao Peng. He also stared back at them. He looked calm and serene, maybe even a bit proud. "So those are the strong cultivators from Xueyu. They're not that strong," thought Hao Peng while observing them. Of course, he wasn't going to tell them that. People didn't have the feeling that Hao Peng was nice because of the way he looked. Ling Xiaoxiao, Qin Meng Xian and the other girls. He had even frowned while looking at Tang Yu as if he had wanted to say something but hadn't. "Come with me," said Hao Peng. They then all followed closely behind him. They could see many palaces in front of them. What an astonishing architecture. The qi of the earth and the sky was extremely dense and pure there. The palaces were gigantic, just like wonderlands. If they had practiced in that place before, they would have already reached monumental cultivation levels. Sects and countries would become extremely powerful if their people could train there. "Xue Wuchang is our protector, but he has limits to where he can take you. There are many places where he cannot go, so I have to do it for you," explained Hao Peng. Everybody was surprised. Xue Wuchang couldn't go just anywhere, he was only a protector. What an incredible place. Chapter 649, The Banquet. Hao Peng was leading the way and was followed by the geniuses of the competition. But as before, nobody could see where they were going. "That place is gigantic," thought Lin Feng. They had been flying for such a long time but still hadn't arrived. How big was that place? There was still an endless sky all around them. Lin Feng didn't understand precisely who the Shengong people were or how strong they were. Suddenly Lin Feng was in a new place. In front of him was a passageway that was about 20 meters wide. There was a gigantic and magnificent gate at the entrance and Shandong North was written above it. There are 4 districts here, Shandong North, Shandong South, Shandong East and Shandong West. Shandong North is one of the most prestigious districts. So much so that protectors like Shui Wuchang cannot come here, explained Hao Peng before entering the passageway. Lin Feng and the others continued to be surprised but followed him into Shandong North. After the passageway they arrived in a new area that reminded them of the outside. However, palaces were a bit smaller and there were cultivation fields. This seemed like a place was for residents. There were all sorts of skills, bicycles, sword skills, etc. Everybody could see that. When will we arrive? Asked Di Ling. He was starting to get upset. They had been there for a while already. Immediately, said Hao Peng. Shandong is like heaven, you've never seen such a place before. Your eyes can now open. It's an incredible place which will enable you to understand the world even better. It's a place for strong cultivators, it's a place where you realize how tiny you are. Don't think that you are real geniuses because you are a little strong in Shuiyu. Actually, you are worthless. I have seen authentic geniuses in my life and I don't consider any of you as one. What? They were astonished when they heard him, he had actually made them quite upset. Hao Peng was making fun of them and insulting them. How strong are you in Shandong then? Asked Di Ling mockingly. I am one of the top geniuses, I belong to the Shandong North, said Hao Peng. You are from Shandong where the qi of the earth and the sky is extremely dense. Considering those facts, you are actually a weakling, said Di Ling. Hao Peng was stupefied, he turned his head and saw Di Ling's cold smile. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, said Hao Peng indifferently. Finally, they arrived in front of a gigantic palace. In front of the palace were several silhouettes. It seemed like those people were waiting for them. As expected, Hao Peng jumped and landed on the roof of the palace. He looked at one person respectfully and said, Your Highness, I brought them. You worked hard, said the middle-aged man indifferently. That person didn't sound or look like an incredible person, he looked like your average Joe. Even his qi was normal. That person was the leader of Shandong. What was his cultivation level like? Everybody wanted to know how strong that person was. It is an honor for me to receive so many outstanding geniuses in Shandong North. Since you are my guests, we should have a banquet together. After the dinner we will bring you to the next place, said the leader of Shandong North. He didn't sound proud at all, he just sounded like a nice person. He was probably easy to get along with, he even looked like he respected them already. A banquet, thought Lin Feng. Shandong also prepared banquets. Lin Feng was wondering what that place really was. Lin Feng was a bit upset because of the incredibly beautiful women on the leader's side. All of them had an extraordinary qi, they were all extremely strong and had natural abilities. And yet, they were only following them around. Lin Feng didn't feel at ease. He had the feeling that Shandong was an odd place. What did they want to do? The great competition of Shuiyu was managed by Shandong, what was their goal? Was it really to see who the strongest cultivators were? All of them had never thought about these things until now. But suddenly they were all starting to ask themselves these questions, not only Lin Feng. A group of women in white clothes brought tables, chairs, food. Everything was put on 2 sides of the table and the middle was reserved for the respectable people of Shandong North. All right. Everybody, let's start, said the leader of Shandong North. Then they looked at everything and their eyes lit up. That is the banquet. On the tables, apart from alcohol and food, there were specks of grass and pills. That banquet was luxurious and extravagant, there were grass and pills. And all of them were extraordinary, everybody could sense the pleasant qi emerging out of them. Shandong, sighed Lin Feng. That was how strong and rich this sphere of influence was. Ordinary people couldn't imagine such things. Even cultivators like Lin Feng who had become stronger step by step, who had gone through hardships, had taken risks. And had, step by step, broken through to higher cultivation layers. Maybe Shandong's people, with their wealth, only had to listen to some teachers and partake in some small battles against their fellow disciples. Learning incredible skills and techniques made them monstrously strong. Sometimes they would go out to practice using some grass and pills. They could destroy extremely strong cultivators with all of that. Those who made great efforts in Shandong could become gods. That was the difference between a place like Shandong and a country like Xueyu. The conditions at birth were different, so the future was different. Of course, Lin Feng wasn't going to undervalue himself. On the path of cultivation, going through hardships and taking risks were wonderful things. If a cultivator who had become godlike by going through hardships and taking risks fought a godlike cultivator who had enjoyed a comfortable life, there would be no suspense. The winner would be obvious. But Lin Feng didn't deny that it was the case for all of them. Surely, some people from wealthy groups also went through difficult times. Generally speaking, people from wealthy groups all had better conditions. What was important was the way the elders educated them. However, those who reached the clouds thanks to their own efforts could be proud of themselves. In comparison with those Shandong people, the geniuses of the great competition of Xueyu didn't have such luxuries. They had to rely on themselves a lot and didn't have access to incredible treasures to improve themselves with on the path of cultivation. "Please," said the leader of Shandong North when he saw that the crowd was astonished. The leader of Shandong North took the best seat and sat down. Then the many beautiful women sat down around him. And then some extremely strong cultivators came and sat down with them too. "I wish I could know you better, please introduce yourselves," said the leader of Shandong. He was, as before, extremely polite. He didn't sound arrogant at all. "Firmament Empire, Di Ling," said Di Ling, "Firmament Blood." "Di Ling, not bad," said the leader of Shandong North while nodding. "Xueyu, Duan Wu Dao. The unruly and ultraviolent crown prince. What you have accomplished is great for such a tiny country as Xueyu," said the leader of Shandong North. It seemed like he knew everything about them already. "Black Wings Empire, Xue Sha. Magnolia Empire, Ling Xiao." The leader of Shandong knew all of them. And then Lin Feng introduced himself. "Xueyu, Lin Feng," said Lin Feng, but this time the leader of Shandong North looked surprised. He didn't know him, Lin Feng from Xueyu. He had never heard of such a genius. Who was that? Chapter 650, Shandong's Goal. "Lin Feng," whispered the leader of Shandong North. Lin Feng was from Xueyu. A tiny little country like Xueyu had two geniuses in the top 15. That was very rare. Besides, Lin Feng had only broken through to the 5th Xian Qi layer, so the leader of Shandong North was even more surprised. Apart from him and Yunfei Yang, they had all broken through to the 7th Xian Qi layer and beyond. Not bad. You are extremely young, such a cultivation level is rare. I hope that after having gone to our special places, your cultivation level will increase. I hope that you will become much stronger, said the leader of Shandong North. In his eyes, Lin Feng was so young and was already stronger. He could be proud of himself because that was already incredible. Lin Feng slightly smiled and bowed but said nothing. Dragon Mountain, Jun Mo Shi, said Jun Mo Shi. There are 6 people from Dragon Mountain and the countries under its jurisdiction. Shandong will remember that and there will be an award, of course, said the leader of Shandong North while smiling and looking at Jun Mo Shi. Jun Mo Shi was, of course, delighted. Everything was going better than he had expected. Lin Feng and Yunfei Yang were even there in the top 15. Everybody introduced themselves and then the leader of Shandong North said, "All right, everybody help yourself. Please don't be shy." After that, the leader of Shandong North looked at the beautiful women and young men in armors. Weren't you curious to know those geniuses? You have the opportunity now. You can even measure your strength with theirs. They nodded. Some beautiful women were drinking alcohol while looking at the men in admiration. Many of those young men were looking at Qing Meng Xian. She looked so lovely and attractive. She could make men's souls shake. Her beautiful skin looked like a precious material. She had a resplendent smile on her face and her neck was as white and beautiful as that of a swan. When they looked down at her cleavage, they only wanted to see more. However, the first one who stood up didn't go towards Qing Meng Xian but towards Tang Yuyu. Tang Yuyu looked cold and elegant. She was different from Qing Meng Xian but they were both beautiful. Even though Tang Yuyu wasn't sensual, she looked delicate. "Your name is Tang Yuyu, would you like to sit next to me and have some drinks?" said Hao Peng, waiting for Tang Yuyu's response. He looked strange. At the same time, a beautiful woman moved next to Jun Mo Shi. She was looking at him in a sensual and alluring way. Her eyes looked as limpid as water. Lin Feng was stupefied. He had the feeling that the banquet was a blind date meeting. Beautiful women loved heroes, and handsome heroes also loved beautiful women. A group of beautiful women walked towards Di Ling, Duan Wu Dao, etc. Because there were only 4 women, the young men from Shandong moved towards one person each. Those beautiful women looked outstanding and extraordinary, one could see it from their qi. Lin Feng looked right and left. On his left, there was Jun Mo Shi. On his right, there was Tang Yuyu. They were both accompanied, only Lin Feng was alone. He had only broken through to the 5th Xian Qi layer. It was too low for the beautiful women of Shandong. But then a beautiful woman who was drinking alcohol moved towards him. She looked left and right, and then smiled wryly and asked him, "Can I sit next to you?" "Of course," said Lin Feng with a slight smile on his face. That beautiful woman was wearing a blue chong sam and she sat down on the floor with him. She looked different from the rest. When she saw that Lin Feng was looking at her, she raised her glass and took a sip. Lin Feng also took a sip. The girl who was sitting with him was the most beautiful of all the girls there. But she looked different, she looked lonely and solitary. "You don't like that kind of atmosphere?" asked Lin Feng in a very low voice. The girl raised her head, smiled and said, "We, people of Shandong, need the purest and strongest blood." Lin Feng was stupefied. He understood what she meant. The banquet had been organized to create couples between the most outstanding geniuses of the great competition of Shuiyu and their people. They needed their women to give birth to incredible geniuses. Therefore, there was that kind of banquet. "I understand," said Lin Feng while smiling and nodding. The girl lowered her head and drank her glass of alcohol. And then suddenly, as if she had thought about something, she raised her head again and looked at Lin Feng. "Look, what do you think? If you and I. Would you be willing?" Lin Feng looked surprised, just like that. "Anyways, if it's not you, it's them. Even though your cultivation level is low, you look handsome to me. You seem to have very high natural abilities, your blood mustn't be that different from mine," whispered the girl with a wry smile. "Since you don't like selling yourself, why don't you find a lover instead?" "Wouldn't that be better?" asked Lin Feng. "I am a Shandong girl. We are as outstanding as those young men, but we don't have as much choice as them. We have to find people who have amazing natural abilities, even if their cultivation level is low, it doesn't matter." "You're quite audacious," said Lin Feng while smiling and shaking his head. That place was so huge, with the leader's cultivation level, even if she was whispering he could probably hear what she was saying. "The leader knows we don't want to do this. But he doesn't care. The most important thing is Shandong. He doesn't repent anything at all," said the girl as if she didn't care. Lin Feng was speechless, but that girl was interesting. In other circumstances, Lin Feng might have fallen in love with her. "I already have wives," said Lin Feng while smiling. When Tang Yuyu heard him, she glanced at him and turned her head again. Then she said to Hao Peng, "Go away, I'm not interested in you." Hao Peng was speechless. he had just invited Tang Yu to sit with him but she was refusing him so outright. He had never thought she would react like that. He was so astonished that he could only pull a long face. Then he stood up and looked at Lin Feng and the girl. Then he looked at the girl and said, "Qing Chan, you're really becoming worse and worse. Choosing a cultivator of the 5th Xian Qi layer, that's ridiculous." Then, Hao Peng rolled up his sleeves and looked at Lin Feng with discontent. "Ignore him, he's very arrogant. He thinks that he's the most amazing cultivator in the world. But there are actually many people in Shandong who are much stronger than him," said Qing Chan indifferently. Hao Peng had already been rejected by that girl in the past. He was still furious, so that's why he was being rude with her. Lin Feng slightly nodded and took a pill from the table which he immediately swallowed. An incredible feeling invaded his body. It wasn't comfortable at all, but it felt like his pure qi was getting purer than before. After a short time, everybody went back to their own seats, those beautiful women as well. The leader of Shandong North smiled and said, "You are the most outstanding geniuses of Shuiyu and those are the most outstanding young men and women of Shandong. I organized that banquet so that you can exchange. All right. Since you don't feel like it right now, I will first bring you to the special area." The leader of Shandong North then stood up and said, "Follow me." Everybody suddenly became interested. On the path of cultivation, people were mostly interested in increasing their strength. Everybody rose up in the air and followed the leader. What was that special area the leader had been talking about? They were finally about to benefit from the great advantages of Shandong. Chapter 651, The Special Area. Apart from the leader of Shandong North and the 15 geniuses, several outstanding cultivators from Shandong followed them too. They were all heading for the special area. After a while, the clouds rolled away and a gigantic area appeared. There was no palace, only a moonlight shining upon clouds. That's clearly another world. There is a moon and a sun. Even at night it cannot get dark. The sun and the moon seem like they will never disappear. Lin Feng looked at the moonlight and was surprised. He had seen many incredible things but he had never thought such a thing could exist. That was another area of Shandong, the special area. In the past, I went to the fire desert when I crossed the illusionary door in the lovesickness forest. Could Shandong be a place like Tianyahai? Lin Feng suddenly thought about that mysterious place where he had been in the past. Li Shan had helped him fabricate his banner there, but he had had evil intentions. It had been very difficult to escape. And then he had forced his parents to block the entrance to that world and never go back again. It was too dangerous. When Lin Feng thought about that, he raised his head and looked at the sky. "Let's go up," said the leader of Shandong North. The crowd followed, rising higher up into the sky. The clouds were rolling more and more violently. The crowd had the feeling that they were traveling back and forth. They were surrounded by clouds. When they got closer to the sun, 16 gigantic and ancient gates appeared. They could cross those gates. "Those gates all lead to a special place, you have to use your keys to open them," said the leader of Shandong North. That's why there could only be 16 participants in the end at the great competition of Shuiyu, because there were only 16 gates. What would there be behind the gates? Nobody knew, maybe that the leader of Shandong North didn't know either. Those gates were next to each other. From above, it had the shape of a semicircle. Some gates were very high, some less. "Those who have the last 2 keys can enter the 14th and 15th gates," said the leader of Shandong North. Quickly, Yun Fei Yang and the 14th person walked to the gates, took out their keys and opened the gates. The atmosphere vibrated and the gates opened themselves. A gigantic vortex appeared and the 2 silhouettes disappeared. 13th, said the leader. It was the girl with the ice soul skill, she also entered the special area. The leader continued calling people until the 10th, but at that moment, he was speechless. He had also been observing people while calling them, and he had tried to guess who the last ones would be, but Lin Feng was still there. Lin Feng had broken through to the 5th Xian Qi layer and was in the top 10. With his cultivation level, the leader could be mistaken. Even if Lin Feng was using a secret skill to hide his cultivation level, the leader of Shandong North would still know Lin Feng's cultivation level. He looked at Lin Feng in a strange way and said, "From 6th to 10th, you can go." Those people immediately moved to the special areas. The leader was still astonished. Lin Feng was still standing there, calmly and motionless. Lin Feng was in the top 5. Di Ling and Duan Wudao were there as he had expected, but Lin Feng was still there. The leader was also surprised about Tang Yuyu. He would have expected her to be at the end of the top 10. Are they 4th and 5th, thought the leader of Shandong North. He then continued, 4th and 5th, go. I'm off, said Jun Mo Shi to Tang Yuyu and Lin Feng. He immediately moved to the special area. Duan Wudao also went to the 4th special area. Tang Yuyu and Lin Feng were still there. The leader was astonished. Even the outstanding young men of Shandong were astonished. What was going on? Lin Feng and Tang Yu were in the top 3. Tang Yuyu, Hao Peng was staring at Tang Yuyu in a perverted way. His eyes were twinkling. 3rd, go, said the leader. But Tang Yuyu and Lin Feng remained motionless. Instead, Di Ling entered the 3rd special area. 2nd, go, said the leader, his heart was pounding. Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu were 1st and 2nd. I'm off, said Tang Yuyu to Lin Feng. She then used her jade key to open the gate and disappeared. Lin Feng was the last one left. Lin Feng. The leader of Shandong North and the others were absolutely astonished. The first one was Lin Feng. But he had only broken through to the 5th Xian Qi layer, how could he be first? Interesting, thought Qing Chan, at that moment he was smiling. That cultivator of the 5th Xian Qi layer was interesting. Do you have the first jade key? Asked the leader of Shandong North. He couldn't believe his eyes. Lin Feng stretched his arm and opened his hand where the first jade key appeared. I'm very surprised, said the leader sighing. Lin Feng, you will benefit a lot from the 1st special area. You have 7 days there. Only the first key can allow you to stay there for 7 days. Cherish that opportunity and the treasures you will acquire. It will not only help you now with your cultivation level but it will help you in the future too. Many doors will be open for you in the future. Thank you, said Lin Feng, nodding. Xue Wuchang had told him that the 1st special area would be extra special. It seemed like that place was going to be extraordinary. You can go, said the leader. Lin Feng nodded and went to the 1st gate and opened it. A vortex appeared and Lin Feng disappeared from everyone's field of vision. The leader looked at Lin Feng disappearing and then said, Hao Peng, bring Xue Wuchang to me. Roger, leader, said Hao Peng while nodding. His silhouette flickered and he disappeared. Chapter 652, Amazing Sword, a cultivator of the 5th Xian Qi layer who can kill people of the 7th Xian Qi layer. The leader of Shandong North was astonished. Xue Wuchang, what do you think will happen in the 1st special area? Asked the leader. His cultivation will improve and not only a little. Even if he doesn't break through to the 6th Xian Qi layer, he will be able to defeat cultivators of the 8th Xian Qi layer, said Xue Wuchang. What if I help him break through to the next cultivation layer? Leader. Xue Wuchang was astonished. The leader wanted to help Lin Feng, so Lin Feng was able to get the first jade key. I hope we have him on our side, said the leader. Then he looked at Qing Chan and said, you and Lin Feng should make friends. Qing Chan didn't know what to say. She had talked Lin Feng because he was alone. She didn't want him to feel embarrassed or lonely. She hadn't thought that he had such monstrous natural abilities at that moment. To the extent that the leader of Shandong North would attach so much importance to him. "I will do my best," said Qing Chan while bowing. Qing Chan lowered her head and smiled wryly. The leader of Shandong North nodded and looked at the outstanding boys and girls. "You are all the most outstanding disciples of Shandong. Those people are the most outstanding people of Shuiyu. They all belong to clans and sects who are not as wealthy as us. They relied on themselves and nobody else to reach such cultivation levels. If Shandong helps them, they will become monstrously powerful. If you manage to steal their heart, it will be beneficial for Shandong and for yourselves." "Indeed, leader," said everybody while nodding. A few girls were looking at Qing Chan enviously. She had chosen the best one, Lin Feng. The one who was considered as precious by the leader of Shandong North. "All right, I'm going to talk to the respectable master now." The crowd was surprised. The leader of Shandong North was going to talk to the respectable master about Lin Feng. Hao Peng was pulling a long face. He despised the geniuses of Shuiyu, but the leader of Shandong North attached such importance to him. He was even going to talk to the respectable master about Lin Feng. Lin Feng entered the special area and found a thick, rich qi of the earth and sky surrounding him. It was 5 times denser than the one outside in the normal areas of Shandong and 10 times denser than in the outside world. It meant that practicing cultivation was also 10 times faster in such an environment. The qi of the earth and the sky was 10 times thicker than outside, but apart from that the world didn't seem much different. It was just vast and arid. There was absolutely nothing. There was no sun and no moon either, but it was bright. Lin Feng made a step forwards. He had used the first jade key to come to that place. And there was nothing. How could that be useful to him? How could that be helpful for my cultivation, thought Lin Feng. However, that arid place looked similar to where Lin Feng had obtained the sword memories. It had then fallen down from the sky and Lin Feng had been able to visualize it. There had been nothing else but a sword. However, at that moment, there was only Lin Feng and nothing else. "Is there anything special here?" thought Lin Feng. He was in the best special area. There couldn't be only a thick qi of the earth and sky. Otherwise it wouldn't have deserved to be called the first area. Lin Feng sat down cross-legged and started practicing cultivation. It seemed like that vast and arid area came from an ancient memory. It looked ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. In Lin Feng's heart, there was only one sword. Lin Feng was remembering the memories from the sword temple in that arid area. That sword appeared again in front of him and it was surrounded by an incredible quantity of sword energy. A real sword that could lacerate the universe. There was nothing else but the sword for Lin Feng at that moment. He was focused on it. Lin Feng released some sword energy which whistled in the air. The sword qi rolled in the atmosphere. It was terrifyingly sharp. If anyone had been around they would have gotten lacerated by that sword. That sword is in front of me. Strange, thought Lin Feng as he abruptly opened his eyes. A terrifying sword light flashed and his heart started pounding. In front of him, in the desert there was a sword and it was suspended in air. It seemed like it had existed since the creation of times. It definitely didn't look like it had just appeared. From that gigantic sword there was monstrous intent. Or more precisely, it looked like a special category of sword intent. One glance and he had the impression that the sword was an almighty warlord and could destroy the continent of the 9 clouds. Sir. In spite of Lin Feng's willpower and determination, he still got propelled backwards a few steps from that sword intent. It is not an illusion. It is real, thought Lin Feng with his heart was pounding violently. A real sword had appeared in front of him and it contained real intent. Such a powerful strength was terrifying. One couldn't understand it by looking at it with their eyes, they needed to use their heart to understand it. How come it's like this? And how come the sword memories appeared here in reality? Lin Feng couldn't calm down. Was it? Did he only need to think about something for it to appear? Everything seemed to be an illusion except for the sword and its intent, those were absolutely real. And Lin Feng wasn't crazy. He slowly walked forwards and sensed that real sword. The terrifying sword intent was cutting at his skin, so he didn't continue moving forwards. All of this was part of the memories, and now those memories had turned into reality. It was astonishing. A terrifying sword energy emerged out of Lin Feng's body and whistled in the atmosphere. There was sword energy everywhere. Lin Feng was trying to walk steadily, he wanted to actually sense that real sword and merge with it. In Lin Feng's heart, there were only 4 words, I can do it. The sword qi was becoming increasingly violent and it was lacerating the atmosphere. But Lin Feng was convinced he could do it. He still had the feeling that it was extremely difficult. The sword energy was monstrously strong, more than what he had expected. It didn't belong to his strength. If it had been a part of his strength, it wouldn't have appeared in the air out of nowhere. What I think becomes true, thought Lin Feng, his heart was still pounding. His sword energy became stronger as he ran towards that gigantic sword in front of him. He wanted to see it for real. Lin Feng stretched his hand and put it on the sword. An incredible sword energy which could cut through the entire world spread in the air. Lin Feng and the sword seemed to have fused together, he was the sword and the sword was Lin Feng. Rise! Lin Feng raised his arm. It was very easy as he managed to rise that sword up in the air. Lin Feng was sure that if he had been a really strong cultivator, those geniuses at the great competition of Shuiyu would have all been insects in front of him. With that terrifying sword energy, he could destroy anything. Lin Feng made another step and jumped up in the air as if he had been trying to attack the sky. There was nothing else in that world but his sword. Lin Feng looked like a sword god. His body was like a sword which could annihilate everything. Will I be like that in the future? Thought Lin Feng, unable to think about anything but his sword. Chapter 653, Sword and Haruka. Lin Feng closed his eyes and remained in the air while firmly holding his sword. He was calmly sensing that extreme strength. He was using his heart to understand the sword. That strength didn't belong to him, but he could clearly sense that the sword energy was reaching the clouds. His sword cultivation was drastically improving. He didn't know how to go and look for it, it was just there in front of him. How convenient. He could immediately sense it this way. He had a feeling that he could control swords better than a moment before. How strong he was becoming. He could understand and grasp information faster and faster, like a sponge. That sword intent was becoming a part of himself. In the future, if he could use it, he would progress much faster. That's why the leader of Shandong North told me that what I learned inside the special area would improve my cultivation, and also help me in the future, thought Lin Feng. That special area was magical, all the things he thought about could become real. Then he could use them to study, how wonderful. If he had the ability to practice there, he would progress incredibly quickly. After a few months in that incredible area, his power of understanding would also drastically increase. The vast and arid area was filled with sword energy, there was nothing else. He looked particularly proud in the sky. Then he closed his eyes and continued releasing monstrous amounts of sword energy unconsciously. Lin Feng was studying sword cultivation deep in his heart, he was fusing together with his sword. It lasted for a long time, and even then Lin Feng was still immersed in that state. He couldn't stop these feelings that were extremely deep and profound. That kind of environment really helped him improve his power of understanding. Even if Lin Feng had some moments of consciousness, he still refused to open his eyes. He wanted to enjoy every single second in that marvelous place. Each time he visualized the sword, he could progress on the path of cultivation. Learning alone and learning from a strong cultivator were two different things. Extremely strong cultivators could dispel the clouds and see the sun, they could enlighten people with perfect wisdom and flawless teachings. But Lin Feng had become an extremely strong cultivator alone, all by himself. His power of understanding was way more advanced than the majority of people. Suddenly, Lin Feng abruptly opened his eyes and there was a terrifying sword light in the sky. It looked like sunlight but it turned into a sword light. It looked like the sword of a killer. 5 days. I only have 2 more days, thought Lin Feng. Some rumbling sound spread in the air and the sword lacerated the entire space. The earth and sky were shaking, the sword chi was cutting through them. Sir. A massive and terrifying amount of sword chi continued spreading in the atmosphere as the area was lacerated. Then the sword penetrated into the ground of the arid area. 2 more days. I could continue practicing sword cultivation, but I have more abilities that I need to improve, thought Lin Feng. He shook his body and the sword disappeared. The atmosphere became calm again as if nothing had ever happened. That place was truly incredible. After a short moment, Lin Feng sat down again, cross-legged. There was no sword anymore, however, a new world appeared, the world formed from the memories of the Haruka. Apart from his sword skills, Lin Feng also had the terrifying strength of the Haruka. He needed to understand it to improve it. The special area gradually turned dark like night. Then a gigantic golden Buddha appeared, it was sitting in suspended in air. Its golden light was dazzling, it was a real Buddha. It could protect all sentient beings from torment and sufferings. Facing the Buddha, there was a pitch-black body. It was releasing a terrifying evil energy which seemed extremely ancient. Just like the yin and the yang, those two seemed like they were fighting. The Buddha kept chanting some mantras in Sanskrit and golden letters came out of his mouth. Those golden letters turned into golden hands and then its entire body was surrounded by golden hands. On the evil statue there was a black light which turned into a yiksha, but it had the body of an asura. Those lights looked deadly. That black light was the exact opposite of the Promethas, it was turning into an authentic devil from ancient times. Lin Feng abruptly opened his eyes and looked at the golden light and the black light. He couldn't help but shake, he was standing between the Buddha and the malevolent spirit. They were actually fighting right next him. Under his feet there were golden and black lights shining too. It was extremely intriguing that an authentic Haruka had appeared. It had the strength to destroy the universe. Lin Feng was standing between the two sides of the Haruka and had the feeling he was going to drown from their struggle. If someday I can transform into a gigantic golden Buddha and illuminate the world. Or turn into an evil and malevolent spirit, and then I could become a Haruka. And annihilate anybody standing in my way, thought Lin Feng. He felt like a hero, his heart was burning. He had only broken through to the 5th Xian Qi layer but he was able to participate at the great competition of Shuiyu and dazzle everybody. People had even attached importance to him and respected him. They had told me that I was a rare bird, but compared with authentically strong cultivators, he was still too weak. The Xian Qi layer was nothing. That statue with the golden hands could destroy the entire planet if it was challenged. The Haruka could even destroy people's hearts. Lin Feng was convinced that there were no gods in that world, Buddha or Haruka. All that mattered in the end was strength, the strong could annihilate the rest. No matter how strong the Haruka was, a cultivator could become a Haruka. When Lin Feng thought about it, he sat down and looked at the battle between the Haruka and the Buddha. Around his body was a golden light which turned into a gigantic golden Buddha. His entire body was changing and turning into a real Buddha. He then slowly rose up in the atmosphere. He was looking down at the earth, he was above the sky and the stars were within reach. The planet was tiny, even though Lin Feng knew that it wasn't his own strength, he could still clearly sense it and feel it. At the same time he was studying the teachings of the Buddha and the Haruka, understanding their power. Everything he could understand was going to belong to him and he would be able to use it after leaving the special area. One day after, Lin Feng was still in the air and his body turned black, he had transformed into an evil spirit. "Go!" shouted Lin Feng furiously. In the atmosphere an Asura shot towards the ground. It seemed like it could annihilate anything as a gigantic sound spread in the air and a large crater formed. It was so deep that one couldn't see the bottom, it looked like an endless abyss. I really can't wait to use that kind of strength later. Lin Feng stretched his hand and continued practicing evil cultivation. He looked cold. He wasn't a Buddha at that moment, he was a malevolent spirit. I've never really sensed the strength of the evil swords, but here in this special area. I can turn into a malevolent spirit and then I could use the hands of that body to use the evil swords. Lin Feng slowly closed his eyes and visualized the evil swords to summon them. In the air 9 swords appeared, they looked absolutely calm as they weren't moving at all. Lin Feng opened his eyes and the 9 swords were emitting a terrifying evil light, but then they merged together and became one sword. In that sword was a terrifying evil energy, as well as a terrifying sword energy. That sword looked like that of a sanguinary killer. It looked bloodthirsty and cruel. The evil sword is even more powerful than my gigantic sword. Besides, my gigantic sword is an illusion whereas the evil sword is real and I can actually hold it in my hands. Unfortunately, I cannot control it, thought Lin Feng. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the evil sword. Black clouds started spreading in the air, but at that moment the evil sword looked calm. The evil sword was an object malevolent spirits could use. Maybe, only a malevolent spirit could control the evil sword. And right now Lin Feng was an evil and malevolent spirit.